you two guys up here. So that's why we are here today. And I know I've been probably bugging the shit out of you on Discord, but I was really getting excited to do this live with you guys. So do you want to start off, Brett, and kind of give a little background? I know a lot of people already know who you are, but there might be some new folks in here. Kind of background with you, and then we'll do the same thing with Ben.
Absolutely. So my son went into fourth grade on May 24th, 2022. He got his AB honor roll. He was super excited about, and then he never came home. A gunman walked into their school, unalived him, 18 classmates, 2 teachers, and injured 17 others, all while 376 officers sat outside for 77 minutes. And so since then, you know, even when you lose a child, you don't quit being their father, right? So as a father, I'm still here fighting for him because, you know, when we asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up, his first answer was he wanted to be a YouTuber, you know, like most kids. And so we told him, you know, we'll help however we can, but, you know, have a backup plan. And so he said he wanted to be a cop so that he could help people the way that we helped him. And that has always sat with me. That conversation has always sat with me because even though he's no longer here, he is still going to help people. You know, everything that I do is through him, is through his memory. It's through his name, Uzziah. It is through, you know, it is to change the world because he was the definition of just innocent, of just a huge heart, of, you know, wanting the world to be better. So, like I said, everything we do through him. We have, I've made 2 nonprofit organizations. I stepped away from the first one. The one that we have right now is Rice for You. And it's Rice for Uzziah, but it's also Rice for You, everyone out there, because I don't want any other child to experience what my son experienced, and I don't want any other parent to have to experience having a funeral for their child.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I think it seems like it's becoming more and more of an issue these days. And it seems like our government is not doing anything about it whatsoever. I feel like our hands are very tied at this point. And
yeah, no, our Congress wore AR pins after our children were
I remember
killed.
that. Yeah, I remember that. Just tells you everything you need to know about where they stand on that. Ben, did you want to give a brief background? I'm sure a lot of people know who you are, but did you want to give a quick?
Yeah, so I'm Dr. Benjamin Dowd Arrow. I am one of the foremost experts on firearms and health in the United States. Around 17 publications on firearms, most of those covering firearms and mental health and well-being. So what do guns do for us? How do they affect us physically, mentally, and our sense of well-being, as well as the social determinants of gun ownership and gun policy support. So why do people own guns and why do they support certain policies? Along with Brett, we host a radio show called Stories from the Cold Dead Hands, where we uplift the voices of survivors and victims in order to share their stories, because too often the media tends to focus on the people who perpetrated those acts instead of the people that we lost. In addition to that, I do numerous media engagements where I've been interviewed by everybody from Fox News to the Washington Post. In fact, everybody but the BBC shut up. And I, have, a pretty strong, social media presence as well. So that's me.
You know who has been interviewed by BBC? I like giving Ben shit.
I heard y'all talking about that in the live the other day or something to that degree. So I've just got kind of a list of questions, and it's going to be just kind of more exploratory type stuff, really to kind of just get an overall basic kind of stance on some specifics, like things that I heard you talk about in your lives. So I guess my first question that I hear a lot about is, and I'm really curious about, is how do you interpret the Second Amendment phrase, "the right of the people to keep and bear arms"?
So, one thing is that it shouldn't be interpreted. It is print. It is clear as day, right? When we look at just sixth grade grammar that we've learned since elementary school, the right of the people to keep and bear arms is dependent upon the well regulated militia that shall not be infringed. But people tend to, one, because our education system is flawed and the people in power want us to remain ignorant so that they can remain in power, they don't enlighten people enough. So, yeah, it does say the right of the people to keep and bear arms, but that is only in congruence with the well regulated militia, which, if you look even further into the Constitution, into Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 and 16, is that Congress would then arm, train, and discipline you the way that they saw fit.
Ben, did you want to expound upon that at all, or
I mean, yeah, I think Brett does a good job.
Okay.
It's important to remember that the Second Amendment is a product of its time, right? We have to think about that. We just got out of a war, right? And in that war, we were afraid of, a king imposing, the army against the people. And so it was expected then that we would have militia that would serve, a couple of functions within the state. They would serve as protective units that could be called forward by the president if need be to repel invasions and insurrections. But it was also had a more sinister alternative, right? The state of Virginia, they were one of the big proponents to push for the Second Amendment to be written, as well as the other writings that are actually in the Constitution itself. A lot of people don't realize that we talk about arming people in the actual Constitution, besides just in the amendments. But they pushed for all that language because they were afraid that if we had a standing army, they may end the institution of slavery at some point. And so they wanted militia to work as slave patrols to round up slaves and not have anyone to stand against them. And so those are the origins of the Second Amendment. Over time, we develop an army and we formalize the militia into what becomes the National Guard. So beyond that, then the idea that the Second Amendment is this amendment where everybody should be armed, that's a relatively new connotation that comes about in 2007 following the Heller decision, where Antonin Scalia, who I find ironic because he has criticized what he called activist judges changing precedent on a whim, and he does that exact same thing. He overturns 200 years of precedent to say that the Constitution grants an individual right to ownership. And with that, he kind of ignores all of the writings of the founders at the time, including the original Second Amendment, which read verbatim that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, semicolon, that a militia is necessary to security, but those who are compelled, who are religiously subordinate are not compelled to military service in person, right? Like, a couple of things there, right? He very clearly says that the right of gun ownership is the right of the people. It's not broken up by commas or anything to indicate anything else. And he says that that there's a religious component and that religiously scrupulous people don't have to be in the military or in militia. And the founders all said, nah, screw that. We're not doing that, right? And instead said that the well-regulated militia shall not be infringed, because many of the states, Pennsylvania included, actually had language that said the village idiot cannot have a gun.
The next two questions probably kind of like already have been answered, but my second question was: do you believe the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to own firearms, or is it primarily related to the concept of a militia? I think you pretty much covered that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and then how do you think the Supreme Court rulings on the Second Amendment have impacted its interpretation?
So I'll start. So like I said, Scalia changes it, right? He upends it. Now, it is important to note that in the Heller decision, right, he actually says that all rights are not unlimited, right? There's no such thing as an unlimited right. And just like the First Amendment has limits, so does the Second, and that the Second Amendment does not grant ownership to anything in the M16 style family of guns, including the AR-15. I find that interesting. But he did say it granted the right to own a handgun. And his logic was more along the lines of that in those time periods of the militia, most of the people would have brought their own arms to the militia, right? And so because of that, he takes to believe that the person has an individual right to a handgun. But that changes the way that it's looked at. For 200 years, it's not. In fact, in 1977, one of the most conservative justices, Chief Justice Warren Burger, said that the idea that the Second Amendment grants individual ownership is the greatest fraud perpetuated against the American people, right? So, like, it hasn't really been a debate. It's not until the NRA in 1977 begins to attack the idea of the precedent that the state could determine how you're armed that we start seeing these arguments for individual ownership.
So, what is the not like trying to drastically shift gears, but it seems like as of I don't know, at least since Donald Trump has been on the scene, since his first run, like it seems like there's just this overall like crazy obsession with owning like as many AR-15s and guns as possible, with no regard to like like they're more concerned about their pew-pews than they are the things that are happening with them, particularly mass shootings, schools. Like, is that like, did that start around Trump, or has that just always been a thing? Because I'm not really 100% sure.
This started what, back in the 20s, Ben? Was it the
Yeah.
20s with Colt?
Yep. Before that, 1860s with Colt.
Oh yeah. So Ben, go ahead and explain that, because you know that a little bit better than I
Yeah.
do.
So let's talk about Samuel Colt, right? We all know his name, right? Because we think about the Colt Peacekeeper, right? Samuel Colt was the wealthy son of a textile factory owner, right? His father, Christopher, was a very wealthy man. He would be in the, like the billionaire club today, right? Like they were very wealthy. And Colt was in love with the idea of the firearm. It was actually a passion for him. And contrary to popular belief, he did not invent the revolver, but he did improve it. He invented the removable cylinder. He also invents cartridges. He does a couple of things that actually improve firearms. But at the time when he invented it, no one wanted these things, right? Like he took it to the World Fair, and everyone kind of laughed and said, "Oh, this is a really cool toy, but no one will need it," and no one buys them. There are rumors, though, that when he builds a prototype that actually works, we don't know exactly what happened, but it's implied that the person who fired it died because the weapon exploded. And it either really harmed or killed outright the person who fired it. And so his father immediately puts his foot down and says, "You're going to grow up. You're going to get into the family business. You are going to stop this nonsense." And so he steals laughing gas and goes around the country selling it as a cure for everything, from impotence to tuberculosis. And during that time, he is trying to build his gun empire. And he has several successes and failures that lead to him being bankrupt numerous times. And the last time that it happens, he was working with a guy named Samuel Morse of Morse Code fame. Colt actually invented the cable that Morse used to move across the ocean. But also he invented the first underwater explosive device. And so he's talking with the president at the time and the military about like buying this device, and they're all about it because they think we're going to go to war with Britain again, and they have a navy. And it goes in front of Congress, and this lowly representative rises up from Massachusetts and is like, "That is the most ungodly thing I've ever seen. We're not buying it." And if you imagine today, just imagine today if a representative did that. Like imagine if AOC stood up and said, "That's ungodly. We're not going to do it." And everybody goes from being like, yeah, to, yeah, no, we're not doing that, right? Can you imagine? Mm-hmm. The problem is that lowly representative was former President John Quincy Adams. And cult should have been done there. That should have been the end. Chaos kind of steps in, though. And at the same time that hearing is happening and Colt is losing everything, a man named Walker of the Texas Rangers is on his last stand. And he is surrounded. And the legend says there were 6 people around him and he was about to die. And he reaches over, grabbing for whatever weapon he can find. He picks it up. He fires 5 shots and defeats the 6th. And looks in his hand, and it's one of Colt's revolvers. And he's like, I don't know who made this, but find it and put it in the hand of every Texas Ranger that exists. Now, it must be noted that Samuel Colt is a lot like Gatsby from The Great Gatsby, in that he would throw these lavish parties. That's part of what led to his bankruptcies, because he thought that if people came to the parties, they would buy the guns, and they wouldn't. Okay, so suddenly Colt finds himself to be very wealthy because he gets this contract with Texas, and he changes his pattern, because while he's poor, he notices how well the dime store novel sells. And at the time, those novels were the rags to riches story about the plucky immigrant coming to the U.S. and becoming, wealthy by hard work. And he says, you know what? I'm going to hire the people who write these books to write books about cowboys, basically. And he invents the Western genre of novel. And he's like, I don't care if you name the person in the book, but you will name my gun in every page. And they do. And that's where the Clint Eastwood character ends up coming from. So, if you remember the Westerns of the 50s and 60s, Clint Eastwood, his character has no name, right, in most of his movies. Right? And so he begins to sell advertising, like targeted advertising. And that's what makes him the wealthiest man in the world. And then he dies of tuberculosis a few years later. Oliver Winchester does the same thing. Edwin Pugsley, who was his historian, said that the secret to Winchester's success is in the books, in the money transaction. Because Pugsley, who is the inspiration for Addams Family's Pugsley, he was investing in Hollywood. And that's where the movie version came from. So the first year of the book sold 30 million copies, which was unheard of. And the Western genre of film, when those came about, they were making 500 to 600 a year, right? Can you imagine 500 Marvel movies coming out in 1 year and all of them selling out? That's what was happening. And people saw these, and suddenly they had to have them. And that's what built the gun empires. Gotcha. Advertising and Hollywood and novels.
Gotcha. So I wanted to get into, so views on current debates regarding gun control measures, background checks, assault weapon bans, high capacity magazines, and restrictions. Where do you stand on if you wanted to see legislation enacted, what would that look like, from your end, to tackle? I guess where would we start if we were going to try to start solving this problem of these mass unalivings, with particularly the AR-15, I guess.
So Brett and I have a few different disagreements on this. Brett, you want to start?
Yeah. So I typically talk about the main 4, right? Mine would be an assault weapons ban, universal background checks, red flag laws, and safe storage laws. And I believe that would take that number that we see and drop it drastically.
Didn't we see numbers during the last ban of that 10-year period? Didn't numbers go down?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, by 70%.
So it was the average number of unalivings before the ban went into place was about 7.4 per year. While it was in place, it was 5.2, and it's about 50 since it's come out.
And then as soon as that went away, I'm assuming that they pretty much immediately just started going back up again.
Yeah. So like I said, so when it ended, it's at 50, 51 a year now. Gotcha. And that includes that during the time of the ban, there was actually a couple of high profile events like Columbine, but there was still only an average of about 5.2 a year while the ban was in place.
So it seems like MAG is like overly concerned, and they say, well, they're gonna try to take our guns and this and that, and like I can never like really drill down to what the truth is, because I've heard it's like they're gonna stop new manufacturing or stop the influx of weapons from other places. So when it comes to the ban, so what specifically does the ban entail? Like the details behind it. What is that?
Right.
Just an AR-15, or what does that look like?
So I mean, it is not just the AR-15. There are specific pistols, there are specific shotguns, but they all have the capability to turn into, or as close as possible to, fully automatic weapons. So the semi-automatic rifles that are banned would be like the AR style platform, but the thing with that is that the ban doesn't make them like illegal. It halts production, so they're no longer made. So all the ones that are out there are still going to be out there. Over time, those numbers will dwindle, but you couldn't just at 18 years old go into a store, purchase one, and then go into a school 2 days later,
Right.
like what happened in our case.
And that's like, so at gun shows. So is purchasing like at a firearms dealer, like like down the street here or whatever, and going to a gun show, is there two different? Like I remember when I bought mine, like I had to go through like a lengthy process to do this and my concealed carry and all that kind of stuff. But then once I was in, like it wasn't like an issue. But you can
Yes.
go to like a gun show and pretty much not have a background check and
Depends on the state. So it varies by state.
Okay.
Like most states do not require the background check because the gun store is selling as a private citizen, right? And the federal law does not require private citizens to do background checks for private sales, which is why states like Louisiana have some of the highest rates in the country, because you can walk into a gun store, buy something, immediately step on the sidewalk and sell it to somebody else, right? But yeah, so like what the law says is that as long as they show paperwork that they transferred it from the store inventory into their private collection, but no one like actually checks that to see, like when they did that, so they can make that document up that morning and say, yeah, we did this a year ago, right? Then they can sell it as a private entity and not do a background check. And so that's the gun show loophole. There are actually a couple of those loopholes that are really bad. Now, we did close the boyfriend loophole. That one allowed a person who was under a domestic violence restraining order to not get rid of their guns if they didn't live with their partner. And since we got rid of that with the Better, Safer Communities Act in 2022, DV homicides have gone down tremendously. Another one, though, that we need to get rid of is called the Charleston loophole. So the FBI has 72 hours to get back a background check. If they don't, the guns company can decide whether or not to sell it. And in half the cases, pretty much like 54%, they just decide just to sell it. In one of those instances, the person bought it and immediately committed an act of violence right outside the store in Charleston. And so that's why it's called the Charleston loophole. My belief is that, this is where some of the differences come in. Like, I don't necessarily believe in an AR ban. I don't know that we need to go that far. But I do believe getting rid of all those loopholes is necessary, and better background checks and safe storage. But in particular, of the loopholes, the Charleston one is one that is really a stickler with me, because if your background is so bad that you need to have extra time for the FBI to look, then you just have extra time, right? Like, you just be inconvenienced, right, until you can buy one, right? Same with like if we think about laws that Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree with, 88% of Democrats, 87% of Republicans say if you're on the terrorist no-fly list, you shouldn't be able to get a gun. Yet the NRA says that restricts people's rights. I have to take my damn shoes off to fly, right? Like, I think you can be without a firearm until you get off that list,
Yeah.
Yep.
Damn. So you had mentioned safe storage laws. So I know a lot of people were like complaining about that and how would we enforce that? So what is like how 'cause I don't know. So people were like, what are they going to do? They're going to come into my house and make sure I got my weapon storage. So what does that look like? Like if, on the safe storage laws, how would that be enforced?
So there's two different ways, right? And we know that different laws are made for different things, right? So we see the Michigan shooter, right? His parents were on trial, and they were found guilty of not locking up their weapons and giving them easy access to it. That is one way. So if Ben is over at my house, we're chilling, and then he just grabs my firearm because it's up on the mantle and goes out and does something, then that's on me because I left it in a place that it was accessible for everybody that was not me.
Mm.
On the other side, though, and we see this a lot, Ben was talking about the boyfriend loophole earlier. Anytime that there is like a domestic disturbance call or anything, the police go to your house. They go in your house, they talk, and they check it out. If your firearm's just laying out all willy-nilly, they can get you then, right? It's not just going into people's houses, right? Nobody's advocating for that. But if there's a situation where the police are called and they see that you've got 6 ARs just laid out in the living room, yeah, we're gonna say something about it. We're gonna do something about it.
Right. I mean, and rightfully so. I always had like, my AR like locked up and trigger guards and, all that kind of stuff. So, cause I know, but like I said, I know that's one of the big things. They're like, yeah, I guess they're going to come into our house and this and that. But, seems pretty unrealistic. Okay. So let's talk about red flag laws and so not every state has red flag laws. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
Okay. So how many states have red flag laws right now? I think,
17, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, I think it's 17.
and how does the red flag? What does the red flag law like state? What is it? What happens? Is like I kind of know a little bit about it because of Trump and the Second Amendment, and take the guns early, due process later. I know a little bit about it, but can you get into that a little bit and how all of that works?
You want to take that one, Brett? Because
You got it.
Okay. So red flag laws are basically like a see something, say something kind of situation, right? In pretty much all cases, it has to be someone that actually really knows the person, right? Like, so a family member or a spouse or girlfriend or something. And they contact law enforcement. Law enforcement basically does a wellness check, and if they feel like the person is a threat, then they take the firearms, and the person immediately goes to court so that their due process is not infringed on, and so that a judge can weigh in to see if there needs to be anything else done. We found that red flag laws in the states where they're implemented and actually used do reduce violence. In particular, it reduces intimate partner violence. But in some cases, it could have prevented some of these mass tragedies, right? Like if we'd had red flag laws in Georgia, the young man that committed that act would not have been able to do so because he was 14. They could have taken the firearms out of the house. He wouldn't have had access. In the state of Georgia, you have to be 16 just to buy a paintball gun. So there's no way he could have gotten an AR-15, right? And those people would still be here with us. Safe gun storage would have prevented that too, if his father had had it locked up. So, like, the red flag laws would have also prevented the case in Michigan from a couple of years ago, and would have prevented Uvalde in that case. But, people worry that those laws would allow some random stranger to contact law enforcement, but that's not how they're written. Like, it has to be someone that can prove a real relationship, right? It doesn't, in most cases, a coworker can't even do it. It has to be someone that is in close proximity to you, over the course of like your outside work life.
Can I ask a question about that? Because I lived in Colorado when they passed their red flag laws. And from what I read, because I moved not too long after that to Texas, but from what I read, even law enforcement can file the petition to the court to see if someone's
Yes.
firearms should be removed.
So the only people in Colorado under the Colorado law are a family member, a household member, or a member of law enforcement that has reasonable suspicion that that person should not have access to a firearm. And that reasonable suspicion is the key, right? They can't
And
just take it. They have to actually have a
right.
written out statement that
And would that
shows
suspicion
why.
come from like a family member calling law enforcement and saying, "Hey,"
Or them
and
witnessing
giving them
something.
okay,
Right, like so, let's say that I'm outside brandishing a firearm, threatening the neighbor's kid as a cop drives by. That's reasonable suspicion that maybe they should investigate me, and they could take it, right? But they can't just like come up to a random person and be like, "I'm going to take your firearms."
That seems to be like what at least MAGA thinks. They're going to just come and take like everything out of their house, or whatever the case may be.
well,
It's also
I'm
important to
asking
note,
that.
even in that case, though, in Colorado, they have to have a hearing in front of a court in 14 days. So it's a very fast.
I'm asking that because there was actually an incident that happened in Colorado Springs where, it was a veteran that was doing this, was literally walking up and down sidewalks in a certain neighborhood with his AR-15, and multiple calls to law enforcement, and all they could say is he hasn't broken the law because it's an open carry state.
Right.
And they couldn't do anything until he fired the first shot, and he ended up unaliving 3 people.
Yep.
Before law enforcement was able to intervene and stop him. With somebody doing that, a call to law enforcement, would that fall under a red flag law?
If the state allows open carry, then technically they're not violating the law.
Okay. No, see, that's what I was curious about, because I was like, could are the red flag laws that were passed later prevent that?
Only if something else like raised suspicion, right?
Okay.
Which is why I'm not a big believer in any form of open carry, right?
Oh, me neither.
That because I think anybody that's carrying openly, there's probably something wrong with them to begin with. And the reason for that is that you are setting yourself up as a target. Let's say that you're, you are a law-abiding citizen, but you've got that out. That if I'm going to cause harm, you're the person I'm going to aim at first, right? Because I can see you have a weapon, right? There was also a case where someone was doing that because, these Navy SEALs, and a guy came up and stole it off his back and ran with it. Now, granted, the guy had another weapon and pulled it and shot and recovered his weapon. But what had happened if he had pulled it and started using it, right? Like things like that happen all the time. You got to remember, guns are stolen because they never lose resale value, right? That's why if you want someone to break into your house, put a sign up that says we don't call 911 and then show something like a firearm, right? They will break in. Like we have police cars broken into because they know that there are firearms inside the police cars. If they break into a police vehicle, they are not worried about you and your house, right? So that's the fastest way is to advertise you have weapons. They will totally break into your car and your house and things like that. And it's because no one keeps cash, right? When's the last time you had a bucket of cash under the mattress like grandma, right? When jewelry doesn't maintain value, right? Your television isn't worth anything anymore, right? Nothing in your house is worth anything. But if you buy a gun for $600, you can sell it to somebody else for that same price.
Sure. So I was listening to Brett the other day, and he was having a debate with a guy, and it was related to, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Brett. You were talking about this, like the statistics of people in which somebody like a civilian with a pew engages in defense of a mass shooting and things of that nature. You may not even recall it, but
no, I do. Yeah, so
yeah. So I was like, so what are the statistics? Because I know, so this would be purely anecdotal, and my thought is this, and I'll be 100% like straightforward with you. Shot all kinds of pew-pews in the military, this and that. And I'd been out for a while, and I went to this range where we were doing this particular course. We were doing some quick draw, shoot and move, and all this kind of stuff. And these quick reaction drills. The first time and I think it was at the 3 or the 7 yard line where we had to draw, pop 2 shots, reholster, all this, all that kind of stuff. And keep in mind, I was in the Marine Corps for 15 years and my last 7 years in the Special Operations. Granted, I was a little bit rusty, right? So when I drew when I drew the block, and was going to drawing and to shoot at the same, I shot like right on the fucking ground in front of me, essentially, because it'd been a while or whatever. So it seems like there's a real misnomer of these hero types out here that, man, we got to have our pew-pews so that we can stop these mass unalivings, but yet I have yet to hear of any. And the only one that I did hear of, and again, this is anecdotal, and I'm from Louisville originally, there was a potential shooting at a grocery store. And a civilian drew his weapon and started targeting and started firing off rounds, shot an innocent bystander, didn't unalive them, but at the same time did strike them. And to me, that seems like that would be the norm, because I don't feel like the number of people that are making these claims don't even have the requisite training to be able to function or to offset or mitigate any in a situation like that.
I've only heard of 2 other situations where you're talking the good guy with the gun.
Yeah.
The first one was in Texas, that church pew-pewing, where, and I don't even think it was a parishioner in the church. It was somebody outside the church that came in. Mm-hmm. And the second one was that situation, like the good guy with the gun took out the pew-pewer. But the other one was in Colorado again, where the good guy with the gun ended up getting shot by the police because they thought he was the perpetrator.
That's what happens most often.
No shit.
Like a perfect example would be Jamel Robinson. He was a security guard at a club in, I want to say, Indiana. And a person came in, started committing a mass shooting. He stopped them. People were running outside to the cops saying, "This man saved us," and cops just shot him and killed him. And that happens a lot. Only 1% of crime is stopped by a civilian with a firearm. Mm-hmm. And the vast majority of that crime that's stopped, like 80% of that, is property crime. And then of the people who stop it, the overwhelming majority are former military, off-duty law enforcement, or former law enforcement, or people who are security guards and have weapons as part of their job. Jim Bob and the Gravy SEALs very rarely ever stop these events. In fact, a civilian that is not someone trained with weapons for their job or military or whatever are more likely to stop them with a broom than they are with a firearm.
Or a stiletto.
Or a stiletto.
Or a desk, right? Like a desk, if you can manage to move one of those.
Yeah, the yoga studio shooting here in Tallahassee was stopped by a guy in the studio with a broom.
With a broom?
Yep, stopped him with a broom.
Makes sense.
Club, was it Club Q?
No. Here in Tallahassee, this was the.
No. I'm saying the.
Oh yeah.
Drag queen with the stiletto.
Yep, the stiletto. Yep.
May I ask a question, Gunny?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So, what states, Ben and Brett, I know that you guys were talking about the fact that you guys have your differences and stuff. Do either one of you have a state that you look at and say that should be the national model for how gun rights should be legislated?
New York.
New York City has a gun homicide rate of 2.4 per 100,000 as of 2023. Let's compare that to Birmingham, Alabama. Hold on, let me pull up this.
Birmingham, I believe, is 68.4.
Per 100,000, Brett?
Yeah.
All right, so New York is 2.4 per 100,000. Gary, Indiana is 62.4 per 100,000. Hold on, let me pull up Birmingham, Alabama. It's gotten better at 54.4 per 100,000. Let's go to Atlanta. $24.9 per 100,000. Hell, Kissimmee, Florida is like 11.6 per 100,000. That's Disney World. So, New York has some of the safest parts in the whole country, right? Most of the safest cities in the country are in the state of New York. Rochester is like the worst, and it's only like 7.9, which puts it just under like LA, which is like 7.7.
Are there any bits of legislation in those New York laws that you find to be most effective in regards to this? Like, do they have an assault rifle ban? Do they have a waiting list period? Do they have specific red
They have
flag
waiting
laws?
lists. They have safe gun storage. For the person that asked for Memphis, Memphis is 51.3 per 100,000.
They have red flag, I believe, as
Yeah, they have
well.
they have pretty much all the laws,
Yeah.
right? Um, Once upon a time, they had what was called May issue for concealed carry. So what that meant was that you had to prove you needed to carry a gun concealed to have a concealed carry license. But the Supreme Court ended that.
Oh, okay, that was the ruling that I remember hearing about
Yeah,
that
that
then.
was the
So,
Bruin case.
so you would rank New York as number one. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. New York does it right. Other states that are pretty similar are like Massachusetts, Rhode Island. They're all really good. They have and like it's important to know, gun self unalivings, homicides, mass shootings, accidentals are all lower in states with stricter laws.
And those are states, and like those states, you can own an AR in, correct?
Yes.
In some of them, right? Like Chicago has a rate. I think it's down to 16.7.
I got this man bombing in and out. I feel bad.
Chicago is
16.2.
16.2.
16.2. Yeah. So Chicago 16.2. That's down from 19.7 in 2022's data. So Chicago is in Illinois. Illinois has an AR-15 ban.
So there's a world that exists out there where a state has figured out a way uh, to at least have the 2A and our, safety combined together in some capacity.
Absolutely.
So when they tell me that an AR ban would ruin it completely for everyone, they are lying, basically.
And you got to understand too, like we look at Chicago because people like to yell Chicago. The states around Chicago are so much worse, right? Like I mentioned in Indiana, right, being at the top, they're the worst right now. So people go to those states, buy the weapons, and then go to Chicago with them, right? So they come from Ohio, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, right? And that feeds Chicago. If we look up in the blue states up in the Northeast, right? New York, their state rate is around 5.4. New Jersey's like 5.2. Massachusetts 3.8. But then Vermont and Maine that have both constitutional carry, they're around 12 per 100,000, 3 to 4 times the rate of those blue states, right? So like having stricter laws actually makes it safer. And and in those states you can still have firearms, right? Like
Yep.
there may be extra hoops, but I would rather go through extra hoops and know that people's children come home.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but ever since what was it, the legislation passed in 1986 that regulated fully automatic weapons, I mean, nobody seems to have a problem with that.
I mean, the NRA does. They want.
Well, I mean, besides the NRA has a problem with everything, right?
Right.
I'm talking like when I've been in discussions or arguments with Second Amendment lovers, and I bring that fact up. I'm like, when was the last time? Like, have you missed that type of weapon since it's not sold to the public anymore? People, they're like, well, we didn't ban it. I said, no, but we regulated it, and it's been regulated all these decades. So what's the problem? It shows that we can regulate weapons in this country just by that legislation alone.
So the original bill came in 1934. It was the
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, And since then, and I love to talk about this, since then, there has only been 3 mass shootings with a fully automatic weapon since 1934, when we first instituted regulations onto the fully autos to make it a lot harder to get, right? There has been 3. So we know that it works.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's funny that it only happens here, right? Like other comparable nations, we're the worst in the world, right? The next closest is Canada, and they're a lot compared to the rest of the world, but they are like an eighth of us, like when we look at the numbers. Um, and it's ridiculous, and it's because we just allow every, like, Tom, Dick, or Harry to just have access without any kind of oversight.
And if we delve into the stats on the school shooting aspect of it, right? Over a 10-year period, we counted how many school shootings there have been, right?
Hmm.
America, first place, as always, right? America's number one, in places that we shouldn't be, had 238. Do you know what the second place country was and what the number was? It was Mexico with 8.
What?
And Mexico gets their guns from us.
Yep.
So, yeah, first place 238 USA. Second place was 8. We had combined more than every single other country together.
Damn.
More school shootings.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah,
That
and then you have
is
people saying, "What
horrible
about
statistic.
knives? What about knives?" Right?
Yeah.
I like to point out in 2014 there was a mass stabbing at a high school in Pennsylvania. 22 people are stabbed. Right? That's pretty bad. 3 of them critically, but guess how many lost their life?
Ooh, pick me.
I'll pick you, Brett.
0.
0.
0. Not a single
Oh,
person.
I'm sorry, Brett.
Right?
No, you're good.
And because they're like, oh, people use whatever they got, like, and they bring up the UK. The knife homicide rate is 1 in 6 million in the UK. It's like 1 in 43,000 in the United States.
I also got to say, my confidence level goes up way higher if I have a broom and someone has a knife compared
Yep.
to that of someone having a pew pew, right?
You can say the word while I'm in the live.
And me.
That's
Yeah,
good.
Brett and
Thank you,
I
Ben.
fight with their lawyers. So,
I was actually going to ask one more question before I get down here, Gunny, because I had a
Go
couple
ahead.
for y'all.
Go ahead.
The classification system, right? Like, people will argue, well, we should have the right to own tanks. Like, you'll find that guy on here, No Way Patriot or whatever. He's a nut job. What is it that classifies what weapons we are allowed to have and aren't allowed to have? And how could we go about putting ARs on that list where you say, okay, the only way you can have access to this weapon is with the proper certifications and trainings and stuff, right? Like you can't just go buy a AT4. So that's what my example.
so most federal laws and state laws limit it to bearable arms, right? That are not classified as, say, explosive, right? Which is why you can't have like a 39 millimeter grenade launcher, right? Because that's an explosive, right? You can have a 40 millimeter, which is like a beanbag, right? But you can't have a 39 millimeter, which would be the standard grenade that people train on in the Army. So, like, as long as it doesn't fall under explosive, and it falls into the term bearable. Many states have varying degrees of what is allowed within those things. When it comes to like the AR ban and stuff like that, it was those bearable arms were the ones that were dictated of having high capacity magazines and extremely high rates of fire with systems that are designed to reduce recoil and intensify groupings, right? Because that makes it easier for a person who wants to cause harm. And so it was all the weapons that kind of fell into that: the rapid fire, the easy grouping. Because anyone that's ever fired anything in the M16 family, that gas chamber, right, that releases the recoil, man, you don't feel anything. right? You can just sit there all day. The person to your left, they get punched in the face, but you are fine, right? And
Sending Tic Tacs down range, Ben.
yeah, yeah, right. And you can keep your groupings like right on top of each other, right? Um, and they're fun, right? All of us would probably fire one. They are so much fun, but no civilian actually needs it, right? You're not using it for self-defense. You're not using it hunt, right? If you need an AR-15 to hunt, you are a shitty hunter.
Yeah.
You are a shitty marksman, right? If you can't do it with a 30-06 or a 308, you shouldn't be hunting at all, right? You can't use it for self-defense because by the time you know the threat is there, you're using it as a baseball bat. You might as well have a baseball bat, right, or a knife. So the idea that people need them is a stretch. They're fun. They're a great toy, but that's all they are.
Bryce,
What
request.
about them? What about them hogs, Ben?
A shotgun.
I love the hog question. So here's the thing: if everybody who actually who claims that they have theirs for hogs used them on hogs, we would have no more hogs left. That is just some bullshit that somebody heard one
And
time
again,
and
it's a
went with
bullshit
it.
argument because you hunt hogs by climbing up a tree with a rope, luring them into the rope, grabbing them by the feet, snatching them up, and then dispatching them.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
that's how you hunt hogs. Anybody from the
I feel
South that's
like
ever hunted hogs, that's how you do it.
I feel like every MAGA who says that, I picture them in a helicopter, like chasing them down range, and then I'm like, you don't own a helicopter, dude.
Exactly.
So it would be worthless to you. But anyway, thank you for having me up, Gunny. I appreciate
problem,
y'all
man.
very much. I'll
All
be
right,
in the
see
chat
ya.
listening.
All right, man.
Drop me, Gunny, so I don't mess up your algo.
I got you, brother. Hey, Bryce, what say
What's
you?
up, Gunner?
Sounds like you're have some opposing views. So what we're
Well,
talking about here.
just on the hog concept, I mean, I think that is a valid point. Just, I mean, if you're only using them
better.
for hogs,
Get better.
All right, Bryce. Well, here, let me ask you this, though.
They-
Let's say that that's what you want them for. Let's just say that is a legitimate reason. I disagree as someone who grew up and hunted hogs as a kid. But let's say that that's a legitimate viewpoint. What does it matter having to jump through an extra hoop or two to make sure that people who are dangerous aren't able to get a hold of them?
well, I think that's a different. So you're agreeing that they are good for using hogs?
No, I don't agree with that. But I'm
not here to
this
debate,
argument. I'm allowing you that concession because I think a shotgun, a knife, and a rope is a much better tool for hunting hogs, especially if you want to eat the meat later.
Yeah.
A shotgun, a rope, and a knife.
Mm-hmm. You hunt hogs by climbing a tree with a rope
I mean, so
and snatching them
so-
up into the tree by jumping off the tree limb with them. Yeah.
And by the time you do that with one of them, what about the other 20 that were in the group with him?
Okay. Fire a shotgun one time, the other 20 are gone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They get away. They're gone. I mean, hogs are pests. We want to, they're like coyotes down here. You want to exterminate them as much as we can.
So do it again.
If you make it where, so here's what we know about pests, right? We talk about hogs, coyotes, any of those things. If you make it where it becomes dangerous for them to come to a place, they stop coming to the place.
I mean, I believe you when you said that you hunted hogs when you were growing up, but I mean, you guys clearly don't know very much about them, and that's fine.
I do absolutely know. And there's research to back all this up.
I grew up in West Texas.
Okay.
If you cause enough problems, like with noise and things like that, they stop coming.
You know what causes enough problems for them is killing them, 15, 20 at a time.
Yeah, it just sounds like an
problems for 'em.
excuse. I mean, I can
you
get
can-
rid.
you
I
can-
have had hogs stop coming to an area because of hunting them, and that's only killing one or two at a time.
Okay. I'm glad that worked out for you.
That works out for pretty much everybody.
I mean, that's not true.
It is absolutely true, 100%.
Okay. Agree to disagree, I guess.
So what's do you share any other opposing views just regarding assault weapon ban or anything like that? Are you super pro 2A, or what's your stance just across the board, the hogs aside?
I mean, I would say I'm definitely pro 2A.
All right,
but
Cole, what is it? What is the Second Amendment?
the right to keep and bear
There's
arms.
27 words. What are they?
Yeah, I don't have the full thing memorized,
Right.
man.
So you're pro something that you don't even know what it is. That's a problem. That is
No, I know what it
Regulate
is. I
militia,
know what it is. I
being
don't have it
necessary to the
memorized.
security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed. How hard is that to remember those 27 words?
Okay, how about the other however many words are in the Constitution? Can you recite the whole thing for
Let's
me?
start with Article 1, Section 8, subsection 15 and 16. Subsection 15 says that the Congress has the power to call forth the militia to put down insurrection and defend its borders. Clause 16 says that Congress has the power to arm the militia, determine how they are trained, determine the hoops that they go through, and install leadership of the militia, and then passes it to the states to ensure that people are armed, trained, and jump through the hoops that Congress has determined.
What about Article 2, Section 2?
Oh, yeah. Well, the president then has the power to call forth those people who are armed to use them in the regards that they need to be used.
So you saying the right to bear arms as it pertains to the Second Amendment is just like me saying that I opened a Harry Potter book, saw Wingardium Leviosa, and was like, that's what the whole book is about. Does that
I don't
make
want to
sense?
take away. I don't want to take away your Wingardium Leviosa. Don't worry.
If it was really about the right to bear arms, why did the founding fathers change James Madison's original writing?
James Madison's original writing that was in Congress in 1789. The right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Exactly. Why did they
Golden.
change it? Why did they change it from that?
A well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people.
Yeah, I've
trained in
already
arms
read
to
it.
the
I've
best
already
of
read it
their
on here. My question is if the founding fathers actually believed that it's the right of the people that shall not be infringed, why did they change his original writing? Because that's
I don't know, you
not
tell
what the
me.
Second Amendment says today.
Okay. Oh, okay. I mean,
sentences
here's
work?
here's
Right?
my,
What
here's
is
my
a
stance. Can I? I mean,
hold on,
can I give
how,
you? Can
how
I
do
give,
clauses
can I give you my
work? What is
stance?
a dependent and independent clause?
Ooh, this is my wheelhouse.
Yeah, you want to do it, Brett? I like the way you do this.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
Can,
So,
can I get my stance out there? You guys won't even let me talk.
well, we ask the question, and then this is how it goes. We go back and forth and everything.
Okay,
Go
let me
ahead.
know.
Go ahead, and then I'll tell you about dependent and independent clauses. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so amendments to the Constitution throughout history have been added and repealed at various points, right?
Okay.
So if we want to change the Second Amendment and take it away, then why doesn't Congress just do that?
First of all,
I mean,
nobody
there's
is.
a legislative process.
First of all, nobody is saying anything about taking away the Second Amendment. I'm for the Second Amendment. You see, I know what the Second Amendment is. Okay, you don't. And to illustrate that, let's talk about sixth grade grammar for a second. We know what commas denote, correct? That's a layup. It's a yes or a no.
Sorry, was that a question?
Yeah, we know what commas denote, correct?
Just get out what you want to get out so we can have a discussion.
Well, I'm going to, but if you don't know, then I need to educate. Do we know what commas denote?
Just educate.
Just say your point,
Okay.
man.
Okay. So that's a no. So what they denote are dependent and independent clauses, right? So I'm going to give you a different sentence that is set up the exact same way. Okay.
You guys are so fragile. It's hilarious.
How am I fragile?
Dude.
I'm educated.
Dude, stop. Seriously.
Dude, like you're the one whining and crying about us
you're-
trying to educate you, brother. If you don't want to be educated, that's fine.
You're
Let's
getting
discuss
easily
something
triggered by.
I understand you don't know much about these topics, and we're trying to help you. So you don't.
Okay, so let's
stupid
discuss
going
it on the
forward.
merits rather than the grammar.
But they're
Because
trying
grammar
to.
is important because
Do
do you
words
think
mean
do you
things?
think our founding fathers were morons and didn't know how grammar worked? Thomas Jefferson was one of the most brilliant people to ever live. So was James Madison. They
Alexander
So why do you think
greatest
they? So why do you
documents that
think
we
they?
have.
So then why do you think they included the
Do you
Second
think
Amendment?
that they didn't
Right.
understand how grammar works?
Right, and
So why do you think
we're
they included
explaining
the Second
it
Amendment?
to
If
you.
We're trying to explain it to you, but you're getting all
Okay, so can we
upset. You're
jump
crying
past
over
the
it.
commas
I don't
Stop
and
know
get to
why.
the
Bryce.
discussion?
Stop being so touchy and allow them to finish explaining why this matters.
I would love them to finish
Then
without
then
just a
stop
lecture about
interrupting. Then
commas.
stop interrupting because
Okay, I'll be quiet.
It goes into it, right? These were some of the brightest minds ever, right? They knew what they were writing down. They didn't just do shit for shits and giggles.
Okay, go ahead with your point, please.
We can all agree on that. So I'm going to give you a different sentence that is structured the same exact way, and I want you to tell me what it is about, okay? My black truck, comma, which has a radio, comma, bought in 2010, comma, drives very fast. What is that sentence about?
Your truck
My truck that what?
drives fast, has a radio.
No, it's about my black truck that drives very fast. That is correct, right? So let's apply that same thing because we can both agree on that sentence. So if we apply that to the Second Amendment, because that's proper grammar and proper reading, it would be a well-regulated militia shall not be infringed. And we know this because it also states elsewhere in the Constitution about the militia. As Ben has already mentioned, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 gives Congress the power to call forth the militia to aid the Union to suppress insurrections and repel invasions. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 16 gives Congress the power to arm, train, and discipline the militia the way that they see fit. Article 2, Section 2 says that the President is Commander-in-Chief of the Army, the Navy, and of the militia of the several states. See, this is why context fucking matters. So if we put down the proper grammar and we further look into the Constitution, we know what the Second Amendment is about. I stand by the Second Amendment. Could it be repealed? Yeah. Should it? It doesn't matter because it doesn't give you the individual right to own firearms. That would be your states.
So then why is it in the Bill of Rights?
What is the Bill of Rights?
The first 10 amendments of the Constitution.
Right, and I'm going to explain this to you. So
let me ask a question real quick. Does the Bill of Rights only apply to individuals?
Does the Bill of Rights only apply to
Or does it also
individuals?
apply to states?
Well, any right that's not enumerated in the Constitution's left to the states to decide.
For the first 200
I'm
years
getting
of
the
this
verbiage
country's
wrong, but-
history, the Second Amendment was considered a state's right to a militia. That was how the founders actually looked at the Second Amendment. That's why in Article 1, Section 8, subsection 15, it says specifically that Congress, after telling the states how to regulate firearm ownership and how to train people with firearms, that they are then is turned over to them to see that Congress's will is implemented. And the Second Amendment just reifies that to say that the state has the right to a well-regulated militia.
And furthermore, we know this because anytime that an individual's right is mentioned in the Constitution, they use the terms deny or abridge. The term infringement is about the states.
Okay.
The more you know.
So did y'all just invite me up here to just tell me what you think? Is that?
No, we're telling you what we know, which is fact, which we have verifiable proof.
We're giving you factual information. If you choose not to take that, that's on you.
Yeah, don't
I guess
try to.
my gun safe says different. So
Well, if you're too stupid to understand facts, that's not on us, man.
okay, fair enough. Gunny,
Your
can I
gun
ask you a
safe
question?
talks?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
Last time I was on your live, you said you had a something that you wanted to discuss, but you didn't tell me what it was. And then
Yeah, I probably wrote it down on some of my notes somewhere, but I remember we were supposed to circle back to a debate. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure, man.
yeah, no worries. I felt like I was going to walk into an ambush with it, but that's all right.
No. This is just strictly. This is something that I've not done. It's something that I wanted to get some, learn on, and try to educate, the 94 people that are in here, because I think it's really important with especially with the way that things are going in our current government right now that we know and educate and try to do things to mitigate all these unalivings, especially of people in general, but more specifically the young children's schools and things like that. There's just a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there, which is one of the overall reasons why I try to do these lives. But more specifically today, is about the Second Amendment and why I've got essentially two experts up here to educate. Whether people want to believe what they have to say, that's going to be really upon them. And I think it's important to try to be receptive of the things that they're saying because Ben's experience with it, and Brett's actually experienced the loss, of his son as it relates to Uvalde. So so that's really all I'm trying to do. Nobody was trying to ambush him at all.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Brett. I'm sorry to hear that. As a father, I can't imagine the pain that has caused, and I'm sure it continues to cause you. So,
100%. So now I want to ask you a question. All right.
Sure.
So you're pro 2A. Everybody should have a gun. Yada yada yada. You said you're a father. What is your kid's favorite thing in the world?
I guess it depends on which kid we're talking about. But my my stance is not that everybody should have a gun.
I just
I just want to make that clear.
Okay, if you don't want to say it, that's fine. But I want you to think about your kid's favorite thing, right? Just pick a kid, think about their favorite thing. Now imagine putting that on a casket, because I've had to do that. My son's favorite comic book character. My son's favorite comic book character was Spider-Man. So he had a Spider-Man casket. I have a big Spider-Man tattoo on my arm because of it. I'm a Batman fan. And yes, I've had to do that. And because of the way that the laws are now is the reason that I had to pick Spider-Man for my son's casket. And I don't know if you've ever seen a 10-year-old casket, but they're fucking small. Okay? And so I'm not fighting for I'm fighting for my son, yes, but nothing that I say or do can ever bring my son back. But what it can do is protect your children. And that's what's important. Why is it that I fight for other people's children harder than they fight for their own damn kids?
Bryce, are your kids in school yet?
They are. And
okay. I'm going to safely assume. No, hold on, because I was talking. I'm going to safely assume.
I'd like to respond.
Excuse me, but I was still talking. I'm still talking.
I was talking
no, sir,
before
because I asked you a question. I actually literally started this by asking you a question. If your kids are in school yet. Okay, so I was the one speaking. I'm going to safely assume that you've never gotten that text message that your kid's school is on lockdown, because I have, and it was terrifying. The 10 minutes it took me to drive to his school was terrifying. So I can't even imagine what Brett went through. Now I understand the fight that Brett is doing here. After I got that text message, my whole outlook changed. Because I was scared shitless to drive up to that school to see what was happening. That text message changed my whole outlook on everything. And my son came home safe that day. That's how you should be looking at this.
Yeah, and if I can explain how I look at it, I've also had close connections to, not as close as either one of you, I'll get that out up front, not as close as either one of you, but I've had close connections to specifically a workplace violence incident, if we want to call it this, the shooting at NAS Pensacola several years ago, and lost some fellow naval aviators of mine. But the way I look at it is there are evil people in the world, and the evil people are the ones doing evil things. But that does not make everyone that prizes possessions of firearms and the value that they do bring, that does not make all those people evil. The people that commit the shootings, the people that commit the violence, those are the evil people. I'm all for finding ways to prevent them from having the access to carry out those evil acts. But it's a balancing act, right?
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Is the Second Amendment, or your perceived notion of the Second Amendment, is it worth more than your child's life?
Nothing, in my opinion, as a father, nothing is worth more than my child's life.
Right. So this is America.
But
It's not a matter of if you're going to experience it. It's a matter of when. Okay.
and
Unfortunately. Hold on.
yeah.
And so what you're saying is, oh, bad guys are going to bad guys, so we shouldn't do shit for good guys. Do you know that, the reason why we, I don't know, say get vaccinated was so that we could, like, eradicate polio and shit like that? Do you think that, that was a difference between good guys and bad guys, or were we doing what's best for everyone? Because what's best for everyone sometimes goes against what you might think is best for you solely. And I'm sorry, but I don't care if anybody is inconvenienced if it means that just one child's life is saved. No firearm, no weapon, nothing is worth more than a child's life.
Firearms are not going anywhere, right?
Why is that? Why is that? No, why is that?
I mean, there's however many of them,
Cool,
in
cool,
the
but
U.S.
why aren't they going anywhere?
600 million or something like that.
Cool, but why aren't they going anywhere? Is it mainly because, people value firearms more than children?
That's a disingenuous.
It's not disingenuous, and goddamn it, I'm so tired of that word. Everybody heard that word on TikTok 6 months ago and throw that fucking word around. Nobody's ever used that word this much. And secondly,
you can say you don't like it all you want, but it is disingenuous.
Dear God, it's not a disingenuous argument. It's saying if children are worth more to us as a species, why do we not protect them?
That's also not disingenuous.
What is the number one killer of children?
Well, like, Brett, hold on. It's not disingenuous also when we look at other countries when these things happen. Like, look at Port Arthur in Australia, and the people there were kind of like, you know what? Kids' lives are worth more than these toys. We should do something. So,
Dunblane in Scotland.
Yeah, exactly. And everywhere else where we've seen them make those kinds of calls and decisions. So, like, our gun homicide and mortality rate is more on par with Venezuela than we are with comparable nations.
If let me put it this way, if it was a toy, like you said, then I would agree with you wholeheartedly 100%. But that's not what
it is a toy,
right? It's not a toy.
100% is.
Less
than 1% of crime is stopped by a person with a gun. Less than 1%.
Anybody that looks at a firearm as a toy has no business.
Less than 1%. 1% of crime is stopped by a person with a gun. Everybody says that they buy a gun for protection. 70% of people who buy a gun say that their primary reason is for protection. That means they're cosplaying because they're never going to actually use it for that. Because it just doesn't happen.
Okay. So, I've never had a house fire at my house, but I have a fire extinguisher. That's not a valid argument.
Do you carry your fire extinguisher around? Do you go to Fire Extinguisher Monthly magazine? Do you go to conferences for fire extinguishers?
No, and I don't do any of that for guns either.
Who else has conferences? Oh, comic books and video games and movies.
Cosplay.
That sounds like cosplay and toys. Tools. There's no hammer conference where people are getting together to look at, hey, this ball peen versus this mallet, or a lockpick conference where they're going to look at safes and be like, oh, we got to look at all these new innovations. Like, that kind of stuff just doesn't exist. People don't go and sign up for all of that, right?
Okay.
But firearms, very similar to comic books and movies and video games, they have fan clubs and they have conferences where people come and cosplay and show their latest things and their autographed things and take pictures with each other with them. No one's taking a picture of their safe and putting that up on their Facebook page going, look at my safe. This is what I got. Right? No one, because no one cares. It's a fandom, which means it's a toy.
And
It's
also,
a dangerous toy. It's a very dangerous toy. And that's why we have such a high mortality rate.
yeah.
Okay, I mean, again, I guess we just disagree on them being toys, but
What's the
They're
number one
extremely
killer of children?
dangerous toy, but they're still a toy.
Bryce, what's the number one killer of children?
I'm sure you're going to tell me it's guns.
For 3 years in a row for children ages 1 to 17, it's firearms. If we raise it to 19, it's 4 years in a row.
It's absolutely 100% fact.
Okay, I believe you, but I mean, I'm not going to choose to trade safety or freedom for security.
Yeah, so fuck your kids. Your freedom's more important, William Wallace.
Exactly.
I mean, if that's how you want to look at it, that's
No,
fine.
that's how it is. It's not how I want to look at it. It's not opinions or anything like that. You're more likely to save your children with actually the fire extinguisher against a gunman than you are with an actual gun.
Yeah.
You're what John are you?
What genre am I?
No, what John?
What John?
Yeah.
I do not know
Are
what that
you
means.
John Wick? Are you John McClane? Like, which John are you? Because at this point, it seems like you're John Cena because we cannot see the point.
Okay, you don't have to see the point. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, so fuck kids, firearms. That's all we're hearing. You care more about firearms than you do children's lives. And listen, if that's how you want to see it, if that's how you want to see it, see it. Like I can't tell you not to, but at least just admit it. Firearms to you. You said that they're not more important than your kids, but then you're actively working against that. So your actions are not comparable with your words. You're saying one thing and doing another.
I mean, because it's not a 1-for-1 trade-off. It's just not.
No, yes, it goddamn sure is. Because you know what?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. Because you want a gun costed my son his life.
No, me wanting a gun did not. The guy that killed your son, him wanting a gun did.
No, it 100% does.
It was still the want of the gun that cost his son his life.
By someone that wanted to use it.
It doesn't matter.
For
It does not matter.
evil.
It doesn't
Yes, it
matter
does.
who wanted
Guns
it.
are used more for
that is all that matters.
Guns are used more for evil than anything else. Have you not been listening?
Every single person that, before they did something evil with anything wasn't evil, right? Until they do something evil, they're not. And nearly 100% of firearms used in mass shootings are legally bought by the person that uses them. It's like 89%, and those remaining get it from their parents. It's kids that get it from their parents. So, how do you determine then who's evil? Like, how do we figure that out?
I think that's the real question. I think that's the
That's why we need better laws. And
solves
to prevent, we have to treat everybody as evil since we can't easily identify who is. And thank you for agreeing. Then we need much stricter laws so that we can be sure then to catch those who are evil and prevent them from getting.
So
it.
if these evil people can't get these firearms, then they can't do these shootings, correct?
You know how I treat everyone else as evil is by having a firearm to protect my family.
You can't protect your family.
All right, John Wick.
You watch too many video games and movies. You play too much Call of Duty. Statistically, you have 25% greater odds of harming yourself if you pull any weapon than if you don't pull a weapon at all.
Are you pro-life?
I'm trained. I carry a gun every day.
Okay, what does that training do if the person walks up behind you and pulls the trigger?
Nothing, but then
exactly.
not having a gun one.
You know what that does?
Gunny, let me ask you a question as somebody else that has this experience. Were you trained to recognize who was the biggest threat in a room when you entered a room?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So do you think that if you walked in a room, could you measure out who possibly might be armed and who might not be?
I could probably judge it pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I could too, right? So if I was going to be committing some kind of act, do you think I would try and teach myself those same skills so that I could pinpoint threats to eliminate them before I actually acted?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So all that training then, right, goes out the window. I'm a professor. I'm in a college. I'm at the front of the classroom. I am probably the best, right, in my classroom, right, at being able to stop one of these events. What good is all my training when I'm standing at the front of the room and I'm the first person you see?
You know what is left though? If somebody takes you out, Ben, and you're carrying, then they got another gun.
Yep.
More ammo, more damage.
It's hubris that makes people think that they can stop these things. And anybody that says, "Oh, I can stop it," I don't trust you with a firearm at all. Because anybody that's ever been in a situation knows it's luck. It is 100% luck that makes sure that you're the one that gets to go home. You have to hope that you're not the first one put down. You have to hope that you can get that shot off before they do. You have to hope that you can get into cover before you get hurt.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree 100% with everything that you just said. But the difference is, if you don't have that gun, you're still on a hook.
In the military, they train you that if you have a choice between a handgun and a knife, if you want to survive, you better pick up the knife.
It depends.
Is that not something that we teach?
Yes.
No, it depends on the
what we
scenario.
do.
That's not true.
Because you can,
100%.
there's been studies that you can actually close a distance of 21 feet faster with a knife than you can pull a gun.
Yep, 100%. That's why law enforcement will unalive you if you pull a knife within 20 yards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
well, I carry a knife and a gun,
they will tell you flat out that
God, this is fucking John Rambo right here.
you use the knife.
I use
if you
both
are
of them for
survived.
work. What's that?
The military, which I would argue is much better at understanding, especially urban combat, which is basically what we're talking about, will
That's
tell
not
you
what I'm
very
talking about.
fast that if you want to survive, you use a knife. In fact, in urban environments, a lot of the times they have a K-bar next to the handle of their pistol or their rifle, so that you're using the rifle or whatever as a flashlight, and they're using the knife to defend themselves up close.
I mean, maybe that's where the disconnect is. I'm not talking about an urban environment. I don't live in an urban environment. Very rarely do I go to.
Do you understand what urban environment means?
Yeah, urban.
This man's never been to a town before.
I just,
I never said I'd never been to a town. I said I don't live in one.
Gunny or Sylvia, will one of y'all please explain when the military uses the term urban environment what they're referring to?
Sylvie, go ahead.
no, you do it, Gutty, please, because, I just have a feeling since I'm the only woman on the panel, I'm just, going to be drowned out. So I'm going to let a man speak on this.
And I'm going to say, I never saw combat. So both of you are far more qualified to talk on this. So please, one of you.
Hey, Ben, I never saw combat either, but I still do have my Army training. But I want Gutty. Gutty, you're the actual special ops trained person on the panel. You would be able to explain it better.
Basically, just running around in your own fucking city. And we used to set up combat towns to simulate.
I don't live in a city.
But how often do you go to an urban environment? Do you work in an urban
environment? Do you go to a
environment,
grocery
or
store?
Do you just work out of your home and never leave your house?
Do you ever walk in a grocery store or a Target or a Walmart or a building where people are other than you people you live in with your house?
Maybe once a week-ish, something like that.
That's an urban environment.
I said I rarely go. I didn't say I never go.
And so how many enemies do you have that you're worried people are going to come to your house?
So just to bring it full circle,
how many enemies do you have? What have you done? Are you making
I have.
Should I start nicknaming you Nathaniel or something? What have you got going on at your house that you're worried that people are going to show up?
Exactly.
To do harm.
I actually have enemies. I actually get death threats daily.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm sorry to hear that. But
and the thing is, listen, the butts are irrelevant, right? But the thing is do you think I'm terrified or whatever? I get literal death threats. I've been doxxed. I am the person that is trying to save your children's life, and people are against it. It makes no fucking sense, but, you know, here we are. So tell me why I don't need a fucking arsenal to protect myself and my family, but you do.
Here's the thing. I think you should have the right to have that if you choose.
Yeah, that's my state's right. Full circle.
And Brett and I are both gun owners, right? We just don't.
So is the
we don't
argument
worship them.
So is the argument just that the states should be the one to make gun
No,
regulations?
You need to take your talking mouth off and put your listening ears on. That is not what we've been talking about this whole time.
You just said states' rights. That's what I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, because that's what it is. That's not what, and the argument is, I'm explaining to you that that's what that is in fact. That, you know, that Second Amendment that you don't know?
I'm just curious in this aspect, okay? When you say you want your pew pew for defending your family and your home, you said you keep your stuff in a gun safe, correct?
I do.
Is that gun safe right next to your bed? So if you hear something at night, you can jump right up and get to it immediately?
One of them is.
One of them is, okay.
Honey, what's our combination? Your mother's birthday? How would I know that? You just wait, buddy, until I get this safe open. You're in big trouble.
Exactly. We have a gun safe too, but honestly, like what I have next to my bed, I have a huge mag-like flashlight and a huge knife. There was one of my husband's when he was in the military that he leaves with me because he travels out of the country. So I'm home a lot alone. And it was him discussing with him, says there's no way you could get to the gun safe in time if somebody tried to break in.
Yeah, so
there's just no way. It wouldn't. He even knows it. He even knows it himself.
Well, and if somebody's breaking into your house, like, they're not kicking doors down and screaming, right? They're going to come in as quietly as possible.
Exactly.
And so by the time you even know that they're there, it's already too late to draw a weapon, a gun, right? You might can use a baseball bat. You might can use a knife. But you're not going to have enough time to grab a pistol or especially an AR-15 and use that to defend yourself.
I also have his old ice pick because he used to be on a climbing team under the bed.
Now, my question is, what do you need an AR for?
Sorry, was that a question?
Yeah,
right, I asked that same question.
Inflection of the voice and everything like that. What do you need? I started it with what as well. What do you need an AR for?
We already understand grammar's not his thing.
Fuck.
Well, I mean, what do you need?
No. What do you need an AR for?
So we started the discussion talking about hog hunting, which apparently,
but you don't need one for it.
It makes a lot more easy to be effective.
Okay, so you want one, you don't need one. What do you need an AR for?
I mean, it doesn't matter if I need one or not.
No, it does. It does.
I have the freedom to have one, and so I have
fuck
one.
them kids. I don't need one. I want one.
Says you.
No, it says you.
That's what you're saying, Bryce.
No, because you're turning it into a binary choice.
Once again, what do you need one for?
Brett's asking a very valid question, and I think I can get Gunny and Ben's agreement on this. As a veteran, for the type of weapon that I use in the military, I can tell you from the day that I separated from the military, I've never needed a weapon like that for anything as a civilian.
Here's another example, Bryce.
And
it's very unpopular in my red state in southern Indiana because I ride my Harley with a big fuck Trump flag around pretty much almost every day unless it's like snowing or raining. Do you think, because I can, do you think I carry a firearm because people have threatened to unalive me, but do you think I carry a firearm?
I think the common conception is probably that you don't. I'm guessing that you probably do.
I don't.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't either, and I live in Texas.
Here's a funny thing. I actually have a concealed carry. I've always had a concealed carry, not because I want to carry a weapon, but because I'm lazy and don't want to dismantle it and unload it when I go to the range. So I want to be able to throw it in the front seat, and that keeps cops from bothering me.
But now I still need an answer to this question. What do you
No,
need
that's the thing. That's the
an
thing.
AR for? So
You
you
don't
don't need one?
You don't
So,
need an answer.
so you
'Cause
don't? No, I do need an
I don't have
answer.
to. I don't have to justify my ownership of one.
I didn't
That's
say
not a
that. I'm
requirement.
asking you, what do you need one for? It's a very simple question.
To exercise my rights. How about that?
No, you don't need one for that because you can exercise your rights with a pistol. What do you need an AR for?
Exactly.
To fully exercise my rights.
What do
You
you
can
need?
fully exercise your right with a handgun.
What do you need an AR for? You don't. You
What
know
do
the
What
answer.
do you need a handgun? What do you need a handgun for?
Well, you
Do
said
you know
it
what
was
the
to
Heller
protect
decision
yourself.
is, Bryce?
Say that
Do
again.
you know what the Heller decision is?
He doesn't know when a question is asked. How the fuck is he going to know what Heller means?
Without looking it up, I don't know. Was that the DC handgun ban?
It was.
Yeah. Dang,
Yeah.
broke the clock's right.
What did it say? What did the Heller decision say?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Hey Ben,
Well,
can I
all
try?
right, so yeah, go ahead, Brett.
Did it say in there? Did Antonin Scalia say that the Second Amendment right is not an unlimited right? It does not mean that you can own whatever you want for whatever reason you want whatsoever.
Yep.
Yeah, I do believe
Okay.
that is exactly what Antonin Scalia said. What weapon? Remind me again. What weapon did he specifically say?
I can't go buy a
What weapon did he
Launcher.
specifically say was not protected by the Constitution, Brett?
It was the AR style platform, the M16, I believe.
Yeah, it was the family of M16, AR-15, all those like the H&K, all of those that would have been banned under the assault weapons ban.
Which leads me back to my question: what do you need an AR for? It's a real simple.
That actually brings up a really good need. I need them in case they ban them again. Now I already got them. So
you have a fully automatic weapon in your possession because you're saying that you got to get one because you're going to need one if they're banned.
No, I'm talking about the 90s assault weapons, man, not the NFA fully automatic.
I mean, but
requirements.
Those are highly regulated right now. You can't just go down to your local gun shop and go buy one. So do you need one?
Yeah, that's
do you
what
really
I'm talking
need
about.
one?
If I had the opportunity to get one, I'd probably get one.
You do have the opportunity to get one if you're willing to pay thousands. What at least 25,000 for one of those weapons, and to pay for the licensing for it. You can still own one if you have the money to
afford it. Yeah.
So no one's banned it outright.
Is that violating your right?
Well, a right is a negative right, right? Like the government can't take it away from me. It doesn't mean I have to be provided.
Why can't they take it away from you? Because the government gave it to you.
I mean,
the government did not give it.
Yes, they did.
Oh,
Where do your rights come from?
Wait, hold on. Felons can't own firearms, so that's a right being taken away from somebody.
Because they violated the social
contract.
contract.
No. Where do the rights come from, Bryce? Where do you get your rights?
The government. I mean, you have a right to life, and the government can take that away from you if you violate the social contract.
Bryce,
So
you're the one
where
who said
do
the
your
government
rights
can't take it
come
away.
from? Where do your
from
rights come
your
from?
creator.
Where in the Constitution does it say that your rights come from your creator? What page?
It doesn't.
Right.
Inherent.
So it, obviously the Constitution then is not been the creator, and we know that because of James Madison, where he says that those who are religiously scrupulous should not be compelled to military service. That part was struck too, right? So we know that the Founding Fathers did not believe that your rights came from a creator. Because they didn't put it in the actual government documents. The only time they actually mention that is in our propaganda letter, the greatest piece of writing of all time, the Declaration of Independence.
The Taylor Swift song?
Yeah. I love Taylor Swift too. I also love Jefferson.
And doesn't the Treaty of Tripoli say that we were not founded on a Christian nation?
We're not found. Yeah, the Treaty of Tripoli by Adams says that we were not founded on Christian values or a Christian. We're not a Christian nation.
I never said anything about Christianity.
So the government then gives you your rights.
So, okay. So if you think that your creator gives you the rights, so then Lucifer was my creator. Did he give you your rights?
Okay, well, let's say you're right. I'll go along with it. Okay,
no, we are. You don't have to just say it and go along.
The government gives us our rights. Okay, what's preventing the government from taking those rights away?
The Constitution.
Checks and balances.
The Constitution, okay, which Can
So,
be
like,
changed.
but if
Has
we
been
wanted to
changed.
have a constitutional
Can
amendment
I
to
get a
take
can I
away
get a
a
point
right,
out? Can I
could we
get a
do
point
it?
out here?
Well, hold on. To talk about to prove that I'm right, could they not pass a constitutional amendment to take away any right that you currently have?
They could.
They could. So therefore, your rights are granted by the government, and they can be taken away by the government. Now, there are
And
checks
then
and balances to
and
prevent
then
that
our
from being easily done.
possession of AR-15s comes into play, and they gotta fight an armed populace to do so.
There's
Oh,
nothing.
I love
There
that.
is
By the way,
absolutely nothing that backs up the idea that the Second Amendment is about an armed populace, and we
this
know that because of Article 1, Section 8.
this dude just committed a felony on live, anyways. Did you know that it's a felony to advocate for the overthrow of a government, whether tyrannical or not? U.S. Code 2385.
Okay, come arrest me. I really don't care.
Oh, I'm not a pig, so no. But do you see? You didn't even know that, did you?
And again,
What?
Article 1.
Let me ask you a question. Hold on. I need to ask a serious question. What do you do for a living?
I'm not going to disclose that.
Like what field? Contracting, like oil field.
How can I? I'm not gonna go into it.
You don't have to go into it.
Yeah,
I mean,
just give me
No,
a
I'm
generality.
not
Healthcare,
I'm not gonna disclose it.
You can give a general answer of
public service, healthcare.
Let's call
enforcement.
Look, Bryce,
Sales.
just to make very
sales.
clear, I mean,
Sales?
if I
Okay.
wanted to fine you and all that, I mean, that would be very easy for me to do. Okay,
But
there's no
anyways,
such thing
so-
as anonymity
so
on the internet.
you're-
I don't really care. Like,
hold on, Ben.
So then what difference
let me
does
get
it
this-
make?
No, I'm just asking, right? Because you said you work in sales, give or take, right? So
Sure.
if I came to you and told you that you're fucking completely wrong, right? Because this is not how it's done, you would look at me and you would say that I'm a complete idiot, right? Because this is what you do.
Okay.
Correct?
It would
You
depend.
would tell me to quit talking about shit that I know nothing about, right?
Sure.
Right. That's what we're doing right now. This is what we do for a living.
Okay. So if I don't have a right to own the guns that I do, then why do I own them?
because the state has determined.
God.
That's what Brett keeps saying. The state has granted you that right, but you don't have a right. It's only as long as the state gives it to you. That's why the Supreme Court upheld Illinois' ban on the AR-15, because they said, well, the state gets to decide. Okay? So, again, it is
God, you're not in education.
the states that determine what you can and can't have, because the Constitution says once Congress has said, hey, this is what you can and can't do and how you have to be trained, as long as they meet that requirement, then the states can put it into effect how they want through the Second Amendment.
Okay. And so apparently the states have done so. Is that accurate? The states have passed any legislation that they desired to pass or were able to pass, however you want to phrase it,
Thus far.
thus far, and I still have my AR-15s.
Nobody said that you couldn't. What the fuck are you babbling on about?
But you're arguing that I shouldn't.
No.
You're arguing that I shouldn't.
Bryce,
but you
that's
haven't
only
given
because
the reason why I
Congress
shouldn't.
is in the pocket of the NRA. Marco Rubio told the survivors of Parkland, I will never stop taking NRA money. Okay. Right after Parkland happened, he told survivors of that shooting, I'll never stop taking NRA money. And Congress could take it away because the Constitution says that they can. Congress chooses to sell kids' lives for you to have your toy.
My son's life was worth $1.82 to the government.
Again, I'm sorry about your son, but
there's always
it's not a binary choice. Yes, but it's
you
not
understand
a binary
when you say
choice.
but everything you said before that really is meaningless.
Okay, let me put it this way then. It is not a binary choice.
Yeah, your
Is that
kid's
more
life, your
clear?
kid's life is not a binary choice, right? Protecting your
No,
children
no,
is
it's
not a
not.
binary choice. That is some of the most ignorant
It's
shit
not.
I've heard, and I do this daily.
Okay.
Oh, 100%.
That
100%. I would put money on it.
Well, are you, Bryce?
I am.
Oh,
And now I get
only while
in
it's a
that.
fetus, only while it's inside of somebody, right? But as soon as it's born, fuck it, because guns. Do you also advocate for
again,
feeding children? Do you also
again,
advocate
it's not.
for health care for children, for mental health care for children? Do you advocate for these things?
Again, it's not a
Then
binary
you're not
choice. I don't know why.
pro-life, you're pro-forced birth, you're pro-controlling women.
Call it whatever you want, man.
I mean, that's just reality. It's not. It's just calling it what it is.
Okay. I mean, I'm
Because
sorry,
the number one cause of harm to kids are firearms, and you are against doing anything to say that. I bet you're
That's
also.
not,
I bet you
no,
also
you guys
vote
are you're putting
Republican.
words in my mouth.
Hold on, whoa, whoa, whoa! I'm
What
not
did I
done.
say?
I
You're
did
putting
not
words in
interrupt
my
you.
mouth.
So you're gonna
Yes,
listen.
you did.
No,
You've
I let
interrupted
you
me
talk.
multiple
So
times.
I let you talk. So I bet you're also Republican, and they vote to take away kids' lunches. That's not caring about kids. They vote to take away, child care. They vote to take away, protecting children. They want to lower kids' age for work. They want to lower kids' ability age for getting married. Like Republicans were like fighting raising the age from 12 in Missouri. They tried to raise the age to 18 in Missouri, and Republicans voted against that because they thought 12-year-olds should be forced to get married.
Republicans are now
So,
trying to get rid of Medicaid, which helps kids get health
yep,
care, to help
yep.
kids keep kids alive. They've already done away with the funding for cancer research for children.
That's real
So don't tell
pro-life.
us you're pro-life.
That's super pro-life.
That's what
Let's
your
get rid of
party's doing.
research on health things. That's pro-life. Let's not
Hey Ben,
fix the problem with real
Didn't they
kids.
vote against mental health care in schools as
They
well?
did. They did.
Wow.
How much money did Greg Abbott take away right before he voted from mental health?
$211 million from our health and human services and put it on the border to trap children.
Hey,
God
let's
damn.
let me know when you guys want to have a discussion instead of just crashing out with each other.
We're not
I'm not crashed
out, my
out,
guy.
buddy.
Don't try to
You're
project
not
your
worth the
crashed
crash
out onto
out.
other people, because you're the one that crashed out a long time ago, especially when you claim to be pro-life, but yet you favor an inanimate object over the life of your own child.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
you don't actually care about kids,
sound-
right? Like it's about controlling women for you, right? Because you only care about the kid before it gets here, which means you don't have to do a damn thing to actually solve the problem. That's like the thoughts and prayers kind of mentality, which is like a cowardly way to approach life. Um, and hey, look, we get it. We know who you are. Hey, Victoria.
Hi.
Hi, Victoria.
Hi, guys. So I'm assuming Bryce doesn't know what he just got himself into. Hi, Bryce.
What's up?
So I heard the little part about abortion because you give a shit about fetuses, right? That was your stance, right?
So just to be clear, so this is the part of the conversation where you guys give up on the Second Amendment stuff. And
No,
wanna
we're not
pivot.
going to give up on the
already
Second
schooled you.
Amendment.
No, so don't try to change the narrative.
Yeah.
But Victoria has a question, so please answer her.
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm
changing
coming.
any narrative. I'm just,
You're trying to.
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm not.
You're
This
going to
is what
crash
it
out,
is.
Bryce. It's going to be really beautiful.
Okay.
I'm going to love
Sorry,
it
go
for
ahead.
you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. My question is, so you care about children, right? That's your thing, even though you don't give a shit about Brett's child who was unalived, because you believe your pew pew is better for the world, or gun, since Ben's on the panel.
No, I think what happened to his child was terrible and reprehensible, and we.
Yeah, but
But-
you're not going. But hold on, you're not going to. But you're not going to do anything or be an active member of being a responsible gun owner, right? Because you believe in your right to your freedom and your gun. So you're not going to make any active changes. I'm not. That's a rhetorical question. I know that you're going to say, "Oh no," you're going to give some shit answer, and I'm not. I just don't give enough. I don't give a fuck enough about you to take the time. While we're here, so you believe that abortion is wrong, right? Do you know when a fetus is viable? Do you know the week? Do you know the old school term?
So you're putting words in my mouth by saying.
No, I'm
He's
not. I asked you a
asking. That's a
question.
question.
I have a question. Everything else
I'm
is
saying that
rhetorical. I don't need your answer because the saddest part of this is you probably don't have an original thought. So can you answer
You
the
said I'm
question?
anti-abortion. That's not even.
She
Yeah,
didn't
you
say
are.
that.
You said I'm anti-abortion. You said I'm anti-abortion. That's not.
No, she did
That's
not
the
say that.
whole
Now you're trying to
I
put
said
words in Victoria's
I
mouth.
said that you are against abortion, right? Do you know when a fetus is viable?
So
Do you
the answer
know
to the
when a
rhetorical question when
fetus
you say
is
right
viable?
is,
Am I
I
speaking
think it's
another
supposed to be around like
language?
20 weeks or something like that.
No, it's 24 weeks. But do you know the old school
24.
term for that terminology, like the medieval term? Like old school, before
No, I
like
do
a
not know the
Republican told you to
medieval
have an
term
issue with
for
it.
24 weeks of
Yeah, it's called the
pregnancy.
quickening. It's called the quickening. It is when the baby starts to move inside the womb. It's the part of pregnancy, because pregnancy is not inherently safe. As someone who has actually pushed two children out of her magic portal, I know this. I would.
She's
We're
not
naming
wrong.
them now.
Can I at least just say my stance on abortion before?
Oh no. I mean, I don't really give a shit about your stance because I know what you're about to say. You're going to be like, "Oh, well, I believe it's a life at conception. I love that for you. Why did you vote for
That's
people to
not.
take
That's
other
not.
lives, take rights away?"
That's not my stance at all.
Okay, what's your
That's
stance on
not my stance.
abortion? Go ahead, tell us.
So I think number one, I don't, and just hear me out before you jump down my throat. I don't think it should be used as birth control.
It's not.
Number two, I think if we could figure out, whether it's viability or whatever threshold the baby, fetus, whatever you want to call it, is able to feel pain of any kind.
We already do that.
Prior to that,
Can I have
prior
this
to
one
that,
real quick?
okay, have at it.
All right.
After that point, it should not be an option.
Well, Roe v. Wade
Does that
already
make
had that all established, but
Yeah,
anyway.
like you're just saying Roe v. Wade, so you're actually a Roe v. Wade supporter.
Okay.
Which is pro-choice.
And real quick, and ladies, y'all know I
Wait,
don't
I
like
mean,
to
it's not-
step on this because this is y'all's shit, but I just have two questions for him as it pertains to what does birth control do?
Prevents conception in most.
Prevents pregnancy.
In most forms.
Awesome.
You want to tee this one up for me, Brett?
Yeah. What does abortion do?
Terminates pregnancy.
So if one is terminate and one is prevent, how can abortions be used as contraception? How can it be used for birth control?
Well, it's not controlling the conception. It would be.
So it's not birth control.
I'm gonna blow your mind here.
Okay.
I was gonna say something about that too.
Bryce, do you want me to blow your mind? Do you know that
Sure.
birth control doesn't actually prevent pregnancy, but it makes it harder?
Harder for it to adhere
To
to the
implant.
uterus. Yeah.
Because so the implant process that you're talking about, the fertilization, if you will, is when it tricks your body so that you won't immediately try to abort it, because your body actively in the first trimester is being tricked into wanting to keep it, even though that's not what your body wants to do, because it's a foreign entity in your body. And that is why morning sickness is a thing. That is why it is really hard that first trimester. But once you get out of the first trimester, you've made it to like the cuddly phase. Sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's not. My third pregnancy is a perfect example of how shit pregnancy can be, even if it's considered healthy. And also, if you're against abortion because it's the termination of pregnancy, I'm going to blow your mind here. Labor is an abortion. So when I got induced twice, I was having a medical abortion, and I just happened to push a baby out of my magic portal.
And fun fact, we're all abortions. Because
Yeah.
abortion just means end of pregnancy.
Yeah, I evicted my two children.
What's your point?
That you don't
My
know what you're
point is
talking
you
about.
don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Also,
when you want to talk about birth control, the birth control you're talking about, Bryce, it doesn't prevent conception. The only
If you
type of
remember-
birth
if you
control really
remember-
that will prevent conception is for you to keep your sperm inside your penis and out of a woman's vagina.
And
Yeah.
also,
Don't spread your seed around.
That's birth control.
also quick thing too. real
If
quick,
you remember,
ladies,
I
hold on.
didn't want to talk about this. Y'all,
Yeah, I know. I don't care.
insisted on it.
Ladies, how much is an abortion? How much does that cost?
I think it's like, it
Oh,
depends on your income level because it's not covered by insurance most of the time, and it's not covered. Planned Parenthood charges for every single abortion that you
Right.
get. So it's based on your income, and it is almost never free. If you have a low income, it's almost always $300. How do I
So
know this? I helped a lot of friends.
Three
I was
hundred
gonna say,
bucks.
I've helped two
$300.
friends, and theirs were at least 500 apiece.
Okay, so 300 to 500, right? How much is a Plan B pill?
About $40, I think.
So
Something
you're
like that.
telling me, so this dude's telling me that people are spending 500 bucks for birth control when they could spend 50?
I'm going to tell
Well,
you
this was,
something.
wait, in my friend's cases, this was before the Plan B pill was, or I'm sorry, the AB pill was available.
Yeah, and then what happens, Bryce, what happens in cases like mine where your birth control fails? I became one of the 1% who could no longer have an IUD implanted because I am in the 1% of being able to get pregnant on an IUD, which is not a healthy way to be pregnant. Let's be very clear, because the IUD makes it so the uterine wall is very thin, not a really good place. So like I was bleeding for like 4 to 6 weeks, trying to convince my doctor that something was wrong. When we finally figured out that I was actually pregnant, they removed the IUD in hopes that the pregnancy would, in her words, keep. And then I had to, when I miscarried, they had to monitor the miscarriage. And if I didn't fully miscarry, I would have had to go across the state line or to Nashville, Tennessee, and have an abortion and walk through a picket line through of fuck faces who don't understand what abortion is, screaming at me about the child inside my womb. And then when I got pregnant again, when I wasn't supposed to get pregnant because my body just wanted to say, I hate you, I got pregnant with my second child, third pregnancy, and I had to go on medication to keep the pregnancy because it wasn't a healthy environment to begin with. So, and I had to make decisions then. So like, I know that you don't want to have this conversation. I know you don't. I know you don't want to talk about it because it's a losing topic for Republicans because they're just stupid. But if you actually cared about children, going back to the caring about children, you would have voted for things that actually help. And you wouldn't be fighting Brett and Ben here talking about 2A because you actually give a shit about children. So you don't give a shit about children. You just care about your immediate family, your, wherever you put your seed with your partner, and what comes from that. You don't actually care about your fellow man, because if you did, you wouldn't be fighting this topic so hard, and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
And also, I don't think anybody should have an opinion on this conversation if they don't know like biology and everything. Bryce, tell me where the uvula's at.
I don't think he knows where the clit is either.
Where's the uvula located, Bryce?
Are you guys done crashing out yet?
Bryce, where's the
I'm not
uvula
crashing out,
at?
sweetheart.
I mean,
Right.
you trying to avoid answering a question is actually you crashing out and not us.
Bryce, where's the uvula located?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Dear God.
Okay, how about this? How many holes does a woman have below her
My
waist?
favorite.
I guess it depends on your definition of a hole.
No, like literally,
Is
there's an exact number of holes we have below our waist.
I've never counted all the pores. So.
Really, like it's really not.
Oh, wow.
Oh God, Lordy.
How many holes do
You
you have
married?
down there, Bryce? Do you know?
How many pores do you have? I don't know. It's going to be a lot. I mean,
Physical
hundreds of
holes. You
thousands.
don't.
How many physical holes does a woman have below her waist?
A pore is a physical hole.
No.
Wow, you are.
See,
crashing
do you
out.
see what he does? Like you will do everything to avoid answering the question
just
or
say,
saying, "I don't
Bryce,
know."
Bryce doesn't know how to let women finish. That's what Bryce is doing.
Yes. Okay, here, let me answer for you. We have three.
Three.
Okay, three. And usually before there are times I ask this question: does a woman
I said
pee
three,
and
like-
have her period out of the same hole?
Say that again?
Does a woman pee and have her period out of the same hole?
No.
Okay, so if you knew that, then you would know that a woman has 3 holes below her waist.
Yeah,
I
because
said
unlike
three after I
men,
gave you a
we
hard
don't have a
time when I
little
was four.
valve that shuts things off.
I mean, there's men that think that that's happens. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Well, they need
That
to
somehow we
read a
have this
fucking book or
magical
something.
You
wall that
didn't answer the
appears
question, to
so
be
we can
honest, Bryce.
pee and
Yeah,
have a period on the
after
same
I
hole.
gave her a hard time, I said three.
I still need to know where on a woman's body is the uvula.
Probably the same place it is on a man.
Where's that?
Back of your throat.
Yeah, because I just pointed to
Yeah,
it.
because
Yeah.
Thanks, Gunny.
Pointed to it.
He doesn't know.
I didn't know that one. I'll be honest.
Do you know what mastication is?
Mastication. Mastication.
Yeah.
Do you know what mastication is?
I don't. No,
I
I'm
masticated earlier.
not going
I
to
did
make
too.
anything up. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's when you're eating.
Eating.
No.
There's a
So
whole
I
lot
feel
of
like
things you don't
biology
know.
class would have been really beneficial for you to actually pay attention.
And 6th grade grammar.
Commas.
Full circle.
Commas. Commas are important.
Words, comma, matter.
So, Bryce, have you learned anything today, or are you still going to vote for stupidity? Oh, he's gonna run.
Usually, oh wait,
Sorry, can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes.
should we do the safe men thing? I'm sure that will crash you out real quick. Do you guys want to watch him crash
Is that
out?
where you ask if I am feeling threatened at home or something like that?
No. Do you guys want to watch him crash out?
Yeah, go for it.
People been asking you that question,
Yeah,
bro?
they're probably
Hey,
tired of watching you crash out.
Hey, Bryce.
Oh God, here we
It's
go.
all
Right,
men
no,
until
Bryce.
it's no
Like you
men.
haven't said anything intelligent in like an hour or so. So I'm just
You
sitting
can't
here.
spell intelligent.
I haven't had enough time to get a word in.
You've had plenty of time. Go ahead, Victoria.
I'm gonna say, Bryce. You know it's all men until it's no men, right?
It's all men until it's no men.
I'm not
out
safe
in
in a room
3,
with you.
2.
Okay.
Hey, Brett.
I'm
If
sorry-
I tell
I'm sorry
you
you
that
feel
I'm
that
not
way.
safe in a room with you, how does that make you feel?
Pissed off at all the other men around me because
And I
men
don't
say
know
that
you.
shit.
So I don't really care.
Then how does it make you feel when I say I'm not safe with you?
That you're very smart.
Yeah. Gunny,
Like,
how does it make
I
you feel when I say I'm
understand
not
it.
safe with you?
I think you're right on point.
Yeah. So Bryce, I'm not safe with you ever. And your whole argument prior to this is just further proof that I would never be safe, and no woman is safe in a room with you. How does that make you feel in your feelings?
Okay, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Are you
I'm
going to do
sorry you
anything
feel
to make
that
it
way.
better, or are you just gonna continue participating in grape culture?
Yeah, he doesn't think all men.
Yeah, he doesn't think all men,
can't
because I can
change the way that
guarantee you
feel,
he.
so.
No, you could change that by being a better man, but we know you're not going to do that. You've already proved that in this conversation multiple times.
Again, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Don't apologize. I don't want
Such
your
a
fucking
man
apology.
answer.
Like, I don't
So
want your
you feel that
apology. What the
way.
fuck is that supposed to do? That's like the equivalent of thoughts and
I don't know,
prayers. Oh, I'm sorry, I
I-
hurt your feeling.
I can't
Fuck
change
off.
the way you feel.
No, what it means,
You don't
it's
have
the
to accept it.
equivalent
That's
of
fine.
saying,
That's
Bryce,
a-
it's the equivalent of saying, I want to do absolutely fucking nothing. I would actually appreciate you to
Prefer
say,
it.
I will do absolutely fucking nothing, that more than I want an apology from your limp dick self.
Okay.
That's what forced birthers are anyway, right? Like they are saying that they would rather do absolutely nothing than solve problems.
Guys, he cares about the kids.
He cares about the kids as much as he cares about saying sorry. Sorry, guys, I had a text message I was on a campaign meeting.
Why
Yeah,
are
so
you
Bryce-
doing that? Women can't be in politics.
I know, it's
Y'all
the
can't control
craziest
your
fucking
body.
thing.
You can't have politics.
Where's
Get
my
out of
husband?
here.
Did I get permission to do this?
Why are you even on here? You're supposed to be barefoot and in the kitchen.
And pregnant.
I mean, they certainly don't want us in the military. That's for sure.
Certainly don't want us, yeah.
You're too
my
emotional.
weak little
Too emotional to be in
emotional
the
self.
military. Actually, too emotional to be able to handle a weapon, right?
Ooh, I've got a good question for Bryce. Bryce, do you think that women are more emotional or men are more emotional?
I I think certain individuals are more emotional.
That's
I don't
not
know
the
if there's.
question. It's if you had to pick a gender or a sex that is more emotional, which would it be?
I'd have to think about it. I haven't formed an opinion on that.
It's really interesting that Brett just asked you a direct question, and
Yeah.
your thought process to this whole thing is, I want to act like I have an actual original thought, but don't. You could just say you don't fucking know. You could just say, hey, maybe I should think about this and maybe go do some research, which we know you're not going to do.
He
But
doesn't want to.
instead, you give non-fucking answers.
He doesn't want to expose his misogyny because we all know that his first reaction would be women are more emotional.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
men are.
But he's
men are
avoiding
less,
trying to say that answer because that was his
That's
gut
pretty-
reaction to say.
You literally are
That's
trying
pretty.
to say that.
No, men
That's
are.
pretty. That's pretty sexist of you to assume that would
Oh,
be my
so now
answer.
That's not how
sexist for me
sexism
to-
works, sweetie.
yeah.
You can punch. You're trying
This-
to punch down. That's not how it fucking works.
This dude's gonna be like, oh yeah, and black people can be racist. Like,
Yeah.
shut the fuck up, stupid.
You probably
Yeah,
want
because they
to
can. And if
I will
you
go
disagree
on
with
record
that, you're
saying
wrong.
that I am the crier in the family here.
So-
Every time I watch The Notebook.
Men are less emotionally regulated than women are because of our society, right? Men get told, "Oh, don't cry, you're a pussy. Don't cry, you're a female. You throw like a girl." Yada 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 and everything like that. Where women are more situated to understand and cooperate with their emotions. We are emotionally stunted as men.
I have a question for Bryce.
And,
Actually,
anger. Let this just for you know, anger is also an emotion.
Yeah,
And that's
anger.
really the only type of emotion that we see from men.
Well, anger and lust is what we get from men. That's it.
Oh, that's true too.
I actually want to prove that Bryce is misogynistic. Bryce, and this is gonna go over your head, and you're not gonna like where this is going. So buckle up, Buttercup.
Okay. Can I say one thing real
Do you
quick?
believe it's
Can you
no?
please stop cutting off
What?
Victoria when she's trying
He
to
doesn't
ask
know how
you
to
a
let women
question?
finish.
Well, I got to go pick up my kids from school here, so I only have a minute.
Okay, well, this is perfect timing. I'm glad
Sure.
to know you have
Okay.
kids. Do you think it's okay to spank children?
Generally speaking, no.
No, but there's room for you to spank children, right? You want to physically assault your children.
I do not want to physically assault my children.
No,
now.
but you said that. No. Do you spank your children? Do you believe that laying hands on your children
No.
teaches them a lesson?
No, I do not
How
lay
do you-
hands on my children.
How do you feel about gentle parenting?
I've heard the concept, but I don't really. I mean,
You know,
I've
it's about
definitely
most-
raised my voice at my children, but no,
Yeah,
I don't.
but like,
we don't lay hands.
do you
We don't lay
agree
hands
with
on them.
spanking children?
No,
I feel like I've talked to you before, Bryce. You sound like another non-answerer that I talked to the other day on a live.
I said.
Because
Did you hear
you
me? I
said-
said no.
You said no. Okay, I mean that's
Am I muted? Can you
color
hear
me surprised. Color me surprised because I can almost promise you the
Can
correlation
you hear me?
between being able to spank children and abusing women.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm going through. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, we can hear you.
You said what I was thinking, Brett. Well, Bryce, this has been
Okay.
uninformative.
My answer to, if you can hear me, my answer to the spanking question was no, but I gotta go pick them up from school. So
Okay.
Johnny, you can drop me down if you want.
All right.
I appreciate the time.
All right, man. We'll see you. Thanks.
You know who I don't get to pick up from school today? Uzziah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just for him. Just one last thing for him.
Yeah, he gets to go and pick up his kids, and that's good. We love that for him.
Yeah.
We'd love it more if he actually gave a shit about the world.
Or about his own kids. I'm so tired of being a better dad to kids that aren't mine than their fathers are. Like 100%. I fight for his kids harder than he does.
Mm-hmm.
This is why when people try to do their shit on my lives, I say, no, daddy's talking, because I have to fucking father all children because their parents won't. Not all, but y'all know what I mean.
No,
Yeah.
I did my nails new today, Brian.
They're beautiful.
OD green.
I love it.
This is the big. More times than not, this triggers
Oh.
Magda in any background that I ever use.
100%.
There you go.
I love it.
Yep, 100%. That gets them.
Hey, Brett, real quick, because I know you and Ben probably got to go. Hey, so Penelope is trying to organize. Do you know? Have you met Mayhem yet? And this, I'm going to ask you too, Victoria. Do you know Mayhem and the Mission Money Out of Politics movement?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we're all familiar.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm the state rep here in Indiana, but anyway, Brett, Penelope wants to organize for you, me, and Matt to do a live with Jones on Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. But I haven't been able to get in touch with Matt, and I know you're friends with him, and I wanted to see if you could help me out with that to see if we could all kind of make that work if everybody's available so that I can let Penelope know and then get back to Mayhem.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if you could reach out to Matt for me, that would be great.
Sure.
Okay, cool. And then, and then Victoria, are you in?
Johnny?
Say again.
When?
Sorry.
When?
No, I'm sorry. Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So just to adjust your clock accordingly. And I know we have daylight savings this weekend as well. So just don't forget about that. So Mayhem wants to reach out to some of the other creators and kind of get the word out. That's what we're trying to do. So yeah, she was wanting to organize that live.
He's been on Matt's live. He's been on mine. He's been on Steve's.
Okay.
But I can see if Matt's available, Brett, or Brett can.
Yeah. So Jones is gonna host it. And I talked to NORADS. She said right now Sunday is gonna be the best day. So are you guys in touch with NORADS on a consistent basis at all, or?
No, but Matt is.
Matt is, yeah.
Right, okay. So she's at work tonight, so she's probably not going to be able to respond too much tonight. But I figure we got Saturday to kind of figure it out just to make sure 100% that Jones can host. So again, it'll be Jones, me, Brett, and Matt. And then Mishi I put the invite out to Mishi, but she messaged me back, said she wasn't going to be available. And then of course, Victoria, if you want to jump in on that too, you're obviously.
I'll try. I'm writing solo with the Tiny Humans, but I should be able to do it because that's 4 p.m. is not too bad, and I might just keep muted a bunch.
So yeah, if you guys could I would appreciate it if you guys could help organize that so I could get Penelope, because I've been trying to touch base with everybody and everybody's so busy, which I get 100%. But so anyway, that's it. I appreciate it. So. I know you guys probably got a bunch of other stuff to do. Do you guys want to add anything before we sign off, or everybody kind of feel like they got everything out, or how do you guys want to close out the live?
Whatever's clever, man.
Wait, Commander Patton has some news about the Veterans March in D.C.
Okay, let me bring them up. Let's see here.
I'll go ahead and drop. Thank you for having me up.
No problem, Victoria. Anytime.
Bye,
We'll see you.
guys.
Later.
Bye.
All right, Commander, what is going on?
Well, I finally figured out who's running the show for the Veterans March in D.C. It's part of the 50-50 and 1. I just got off the phone with the person actually running the Veterans 50-50 and 1, and they are very organized. We're meeting at noon. It is a petitioned protest. All great stuff going on. I'm going to be heading out. I raised $150 for gas money to go. And if you could, just let everyone know on 14th, we're marching in D.C., Veterans Against Fascism, and all the cuts and everything that's happening to the VA.
Got it. I'm writing it
Let's
down.
go.
That's my jam right there, Veterans Against Fascism. I got I got my Antifa flag on my Harley too. So.
Yeah, I watch all those videos, so it's great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right, cool. Yeah, we just finished a really good 2A live. We had a guy that was a pure pothole up here named Bryce. That was pretty much low information, but I think we had a very informative live here. So.
Even if he didn't learn anything, I'm sure the viewers did.
I know I did. Like there was so much stuff that you guys passed along that that I didn't know. That's why I always appreciate, when I'm in your lives, because I was working out the other day and I was listening. I was, damn, I didn't fucking know that. And I'm thinking,
I learned every single time I'm in a debate like this, or even just listening. Brett had brought it up, like when he asked Bryce, like, what do you need an AR-15 for?
Yeah.
We have one. And I can tell you every single time I think about it, like the last time I took that thing out of its case, at least 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, and it makes me think, like, why do we still have this? We don't need it.
And that's cool, right? Like, that's the thing too. Like, people think like I'm out to take everybody's guns and everything, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. I just want people to be safer. And if he would have just answered realistically, like, I don't have a need for it, then it could have ended right there. Like, okay, so it's a want, right? I want a Lambo. I don't need a Lambo, but I want one, There's a difference in the shit that you need and the shit that you want. And
like, I want to be loved, but then I needed to find out that's not something that is available to me.
I want to live, laugh, toaster bath, but I don't need to.
Yeah, you beat me to it. I was setting that up.
Goddamn right.
You know me too well.
Okay, I do.
Yeah, when I had mine, I think I dropped like $600 on it. I upgraded it, probably put, I don't know, $1,500 worth of shit in there. And guess what? Guess where it's at?
Collecting dust.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, like,
I was like, this thing's going to be badass. I really fucking need this. And I think I only took it to the range one time.
Well, and let's think about 5.56 is expensive, but 223 is also really freaking expensive, right? What's it selling for now? Like $45 a box, for 20 shells or something like that, right? Like, I mean, I have a 6-figure salary, but even I can't afford to take that damn thing out very often, right? Like, when you think about how much it costs to fire. So yeah, no one needs one.
And you know what? And for home defense, that's the last thing I would pick up to use.
Yeah.
Defense. Honestly, I would either go for a shotgun, or a handgun.
High risk self-unaliver. I shouldn't even have my hands or possession or even in my home with one of them.
Yeah.
Well, and if you're responsible, right, that means your weapons are in one safe and your ammunition's in a completely separate safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With a trigger guard.
Yeah.
Like,
you're always
people
doing
understand that. Like, in military bases, like they're not even usually on the same side of the base.
Yeah.
The arms room and where the ammunition is. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because the ammo dumps in a whole different part of the base than the armory.
Yeah, because they don't want to risk, like, if it gets bombed, that they lose the weapons, right? Like, they have a little bit there to help, but like it's strategic, right? It's purposeful. There are reasons for those things.
Yeah, I mean, I remember going to the range. We didn't even get our ammo until we got to the range.
Right.
We had our weapons with us, which we signed out of the the arms room, but we didn't get our ammo until we got to the range.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, real quick. This will be my last point. Thinking about all these chuckle fucks that come up here and talk about like gun-free zones, right? Like, by their definition, a military base is a gun-free zone because only the MPs and the quartermaster have weapons, right? Yep. Everybody else has to check them out. Even if you bring one with you, you have to turn it over to the supply chain, and they put it away, and then you get a receipt. They give you a piece of paper, and then you turn that paper in.
You know how many times I saw a pew-pew in the Navy? You know how many times I saw a pew-pew in the Navy on a ship?
Probably just the ones that were mounted.
Nope, just once.
Let me tell you, that's the main
Someone
reason.
broke into the ATM on the ship, and they had to guard it. That's it.
The main reason why my husband never wanted to live in post housing was because we couldn't keep our own weapons in our home on post housing. That's why we always lived off base or off post.
You can't even keep a knife more than 3 inches.
Yeah, like all of that stuff's heavily regulated, right? The only people that have them like anywhere on the base are the MPs, because otherwise you have to sign them out.
On duty. Only while they're on duty, because when they're not on duty and they're off duty and back 100%. In their barracks or in their homes, they have to turn that weepon back in.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go into that. That'll blow people's minds up, right? Like, I was just going to end with the police have them. It's like, oh no, the police also have to turn theirs in at the end of the day.
And
that's a new conversation.
Also, not just that, but this gun-free zone thing. If police are allowed to carry guns on there, it's no longer gun-free. If a gun can be on there, no matter who's holding it, it is no longer a gun-free zone. So schools are not gun-free zones.
Not
Right.
especially when they have armed resource officers. That's what Colorado called them.
Yeah.
Armed resource officers, but they were cops.
And let's not
Yeah.
forget how many times they left their gun in the bathroom.
Yep.
Every
Or-
single school my son attended in Colorado, from kindergarten till he graduated, had an armed resource officer, all because of Columbine.
Overall,
he went
it's
to
about
prison.
60
School.
Well, overall, it's about 66% of schools have an armed person, but it's like 88% of high schools. Like if we look specifically at high schools, and we're talking public, not private. Private schools don't want firearms. They typically don't have anybody that's armed.
Didn't Trump like in some sort of protection for schools or something like that? Or I might be totally thinking about something else in that regard.
Yeah, he went again. He
Got rid of the Gun Research Center and some of the research on keeping kids in the lockdown stuff, some of the funding for that.
To be fair, I'm actually glad that he did away with the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. I know that sounds weird, but hear me out. I would rather him get rid of it than put like Kyle Rittenhouse in charge of it, because that's the type of shit that he does. Right. So I would rather him disband it, and they still work. Like, they're still working. I know the two that are in charge of it. They're still working. Right. Doing the same research and whatnot. But I am so glad that instead of putting like Rittenhouse in it, that he was just like, fuck it, we're not going to do it. Because I would rather it be gone than be perverted in any way.
Right. I was worried he was going to put John Lott in charge of it. But, like, no matter what else happens, no matter what else he changes, I just want everybody to remember the flag stays the same.
The flag stays the same.
Brett, do you any work with Everytown or Moms Demand Action?
I love Moms Demand.
Is there a way that you can help me to get them to do a veterans group in that area? Because we're always taken more seriously when we're involved in these groups, and it's veterans demand action, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of veterans that want, common sense, if you want to call it common sense gun reform.
Yeah, and
everybody automatically assumes being a veteran that we're Second Amendment lovers, and it's not true. I mean, I know so many veterans that are like us, like they want common sense gun laws. We don't want to take the guns away, but let's regulate them.
But I mean, here's the thing: most gun owners are actually reasonable people, and like 54% of gun owners are actually okay with a gun registry, which is great considering that Republicans have kept a gun registry apparently for like 30 years, 40 years, and didn't tell anybody. We just found that out with that ProPublica expose. So, fun fact, if you haven't heard that, starting in the 70s when they had people filling out those cards for warranties and things on firearms, the firearm companies were selling those to private companies to create a database of gun owners so that politicians could use it to message.
Yeah, we should definitely get a veterans group into Moms Demand Action, a chapter started.
I would be absolutely want to be a part of that. I am a mom too.
Well, I lobby with Moms Demand Action here in New York, so I brought it up a couple times.
Yeah, I got to meet with a student actually after spring break. We're going to be talking about establishing a students' demand, moms' demand on campus here.
Cool. Bring up the veterans thing. Get them to start a veterans group. Let us use our podium and our speech to help it. I mean, I got Defense of Democracy to start a Veterans Defending Democracy, and now I'm the national commander doing the school board stuff, fighting, moms demand, moms for liberty and all that hate nonsense.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, it's about 4:30. I think I'm about ready to get some dinner.
You're going to go masticate? So am I.
Yeah, Brett, if you don't mind just reaching out to Matt for me on that thing for Sunday, that would be awesome. Ben and Brett, both of you, it's been a pleasure to actually talk to you at length here about all this.
Absolutely.
I'll continue to support you guys. in what you do, and I'm gonna do it better about dropping in your lives a little more, because this is another thing that's like probably in the top 3 of my list, along with some of the other major things that I need to get educated on here. So I really appreciate your time, your input, and hope maybe we can do this again another live.
Anytime.
Absolutely.
Hey, and
Send the bat signal if somebody comes up talking about 2A. Send the bat signal.
What's the best way to send the bat signal?
I mean, I'll text both of you. Like, am I following you, Sylvia? I don't know if I am.
Message me. I'll start going into their lives and letting them know. Message me.
I can also just text my cell to both of y'all. You can that way you just have that, and that's
he doesn't text back. I'm just letting y'all know.
I don't text back, but I'll show up.
But he'll show up.
Discord, I try to use Discord for most of their creators, because I know people, and rightfully so, they probably don't want to give out their numbers. I'm good with it.
Easy peasy lemon squeeze.
I'm a public figure, so I don't care. I don't like Discord because I'm in like 170 of them, and the notifications cause paralysis, so I don't ever look at Discord.
Well, that's why I asked.
Ben, go to Discord.
That's why I asked the best way to send the bat signal up, because I'm in Brett's Discord, but man, like there's always a lot going on in his Discord. So
probably
I'm in Brett. I have no idea what's going on there.
Yeah.
I'll give Ben. If you text me your number, then when you get mine, just shoot it over to Brett or however. That way we can keep in communication that way, because I think this is direct contact is just easier than, like I said, Discord. And then we'll circle back if we could get with Matt before, like on tomorrow or something, and you guys can just text me back when you get my number. That would be awesome. Other than that, I think that's about it.
Can I add one more thing about the Veterans March on the 14th?
Yeah, no problem, Ben.
If you can't get to DC, if you can get to your state capital,
yes,
we're also marching at state capitals.
Yes.
Yeah, and the march
peaceful.
The Money Out of Politics March on July 27th is the same thing. So if you can't make it to DC on July 27th, everybody just go to your respective capitals. But I've got all the information in the movement on my Discord, the link that you can, if you're interested in going to it and getting more involved. But that's the date of it. And then I'll just try to have Mayhem up here, and we publish it on my lives just to push the information out over the next few months. So
Ben said he's still here, and he sent his number.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it. And then
I guess he had to drop
back, and then just send it over to Brett. And then I've been on Matt's lives before. If you wanted to send Matt my number too, just so I can have it, I like Matt.
Yeah, I brought Ben back.
Brett has mine. Brett and I talk pretty much like a few times a week.
Okay.
I'm bad about returning texts, as Brett will always throw me under the bus for.
He did.
Absolutely, 100%. The last time I texted Ben, it took him 3 days to text back.
That's funny.
Listen, Linda, listen.
All right, folks. Hey, I love you guys.
Much love. I appreciate it.
You guys be good. Brett, I'll probably check you out later if you're on live. Ben, have a great day. Sylvia, thank you for coming up. Commander, thank you.
You're welcome.
Love you guys. We'll talk to you later.
Are you doing it live tonight?
Yeah, I'll be on around 8 o'clock.
Okay.
All right. Love you all. Bye.
Bye, guys.